Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, we'll get started. Okay, I'd like to call the July 13th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission to order. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Present.
Mr. Scributennis,
Here.
Mr. Khan,
Here.
Mr. McPartland,
Here.
Mr. Diarpino,
Here.
Mr. Oster,
Here.
Chairman Walsh.
Here. Okay,
Ms.
thank you. Mr. Henry.
One more, Ms. Gold.
Present.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a couple sets of minutes for approval. First set being the May 11th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion for approval by Mr. Oster. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Scributennis. And any discussion on the May 11 minutes? I have one question, I guess, for Laura. Obviously the minutes are pretty extensive there. When the minutes are prepared, do we just take the letters that are sent in from the residents and copy and paste and put them in, or do we try to transcribe the words, or how are we doing that? I can't hear you, Laura.
Sorry. I would say typically we have transcribed the intent of the letter, but in that instance, because there were so many and we didn't want to misrepresent, that those were direct cut and paste to what I read. And so there are some typographical errors and stuff in the direct cut and paste, but we wanted to leave them just the way they were written.
Okay, and that was my next question, because I see some typos, and if that's the way they were submitted, we'll leave it the way it was then. Okay. All right. Is there any other comments or questions on the May 11th minutes? Okay, hearing none, and I have no comments, just that question there. All those in favor of approval of the May 11th meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Hearing no one opposed, we'll approve the May 11th meetings as submitted. May 11th, 2020 meeting minutes as submitted. Thank you. Next up, we have the June 1st, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, again, moved by Mr. Oster. Thank you. Do I have a second?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Mike Scributennis.
And seconded by Mr. Scributennis. Thank you. And any discussion on those minutes? I only have one comment, I guess. It's not just a question maybe for Laura. Laura, that was a special meeting. I just thought maybe it might be worthwhile at the top of the minutes to note that in there that says it's a special meeting regarding the Windsor Drive or Kelts Farm development, just so, because that's the only topic. There was nothing else in them. That might help in the future.
That's a good idea. We can
In the
add a
future,
line
you
up
have
there.
to look for those, okay? So we just make that front, you could just add that to it. I don't think there's nothing in the minutes themselves that changes, just the title. Okay, does anybody else have any comments on those minutes at all? Okay. Hearing no comments or changes to those minutes, all those in favor of approval of the June 1st, 2020 meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. Hearing no one opposed to the June 1st, 2020 meeting minutes, so those are approved. Thank you. We'll move on. No public hearings tonight, so we'll go to privilege of the floor. Lauren, have you received any emails, or is there anybody online that would like to speak?
So I just am double checking. I don't have any emails. And I believe everyone that I saw join was for an agenda item. Is there anybody on the call that isn't on an agenda item?
Okay. All right, so we have no one that wants to speak that's logged in for privilege of the floor. Okay. All right, seeing no one for privilege of the floor, we'll close privilege of the floor, and then we'll move on. We have no unfinished business tonight, so we'll move right to new business. Under new business, we have a few resolutions tonight. The first resolution being Resolution 2020-18, a resolution for final site plan approval for a tenant change at 1448 Balltown Road, and that's the Ace Hardware. And as usual, I'll just summarize the resolution, which has been posted to our webpage. This planning board and zoning commission finds that Ace Hardware. We could get somebody on, somebody's not on mute there. Okay, all right. Somebody's not on mute. Could you please mute?
When you made him, I think.
Okay, thank you. All right, this planning board and zoning commission finds the Ace Hardware site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code, previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan intended change with the following conditions. Number 1, outdoor storage of hardware store wares shall be limited to a 50-foot times 10-foot area directly adjacent to the south facade of the existing building. Number 2, the signage package will be reviewed and approved under a future site plan amendment is not included in the approval of this site plan intended change. Number 3, prior to issuance of a building permit for the building, the applicant shall submit elevation and landscaping drawings to the Architectural Review Board for the review and approval, as well as light pole specifications to ensure that the proposed addition and lighting features are aesthetically integrated with the existing structures. Number 4, prior to issuance of a building permit, tree removals and final landscaping plans shall be approved by the Niskayuna Tree Council. To the extent practical, the applicant shall plant a line of trees along the upgraded entrance from Knott Street. And condition number 5, prior to issuance of a building permit, all site grading and engineering shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the town engineering department. Let's see, and that's, so do I have, Mr. O'Connor or Laflamme, do I have a motion on the resolution?
So
This is
moved.
Cengiz. Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Laflamme and seconded by Mr. Khan, and we can have some discussion.
Excuse me, Laura, did you want to
I would
say
like to
something
Chairman
about?
Walsh that I think we've had several discussions in the planning board relative to the site, and also upon obtaining.
You're a little low, your volume, Mr. Khan, just so you know. Maybe it's just me.
Can you guys hear me okay? I've been having some issues hearing you folks, so I actually have to log out and log back in. But can you hear me now?
I can hear fine. Just my
Mr.
perspective.
Walsh, can you hear me?
Yep, I just have to, I'm turning it up a little bit here.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
In summary, the board has had a lot of discussions around the site itself, and that's why we're comfortable carrying forward this resolution, proposing it tonight. I think the only thing that then remains is a discussion around the signage, which we'll pick up in the discussion session. But again, in summary, with the upgrades to the site, with the area variance that was given for the greenhouse, with the accessibility from Knott Street and the widening of the road, or getting the road in a position to handle the traffic that's necessary, we feel that this project is at the point where approving the site plan is warranted. I don't know if Chris wanted to add anything.
No, Cengiz, that was it. The widening the road, the traffic flow is very clear now that the directional signs will direct traffic to Knott Street. It's a good improvement to the building. The concerns that we had with flooding will be addressed with the interior entranceway that's on the backside of Balltown. So yeah, everything seems to be good, and we're just looking for the signage. Is the next one.
Kevin and Cengiz and Chris, actually, this is what Clark was trying to say. There may actually be an error in that resolution. When I was looking at, so the CIC, and we've heard it from some of the public as well, that they were concerned about outdoor storage of hardware stores because we've had, typical hardware stores do have a fair number of snow blowers in the, fall, winter, and lawnmowers in the summer, and, bags of mulch and things like that. And so just to kind of follow up with what the CIC had recommended, plus some of the things we've been hearing from residents, we wanted to designate an area that was for storage, just so that if it started to creep, the zoning enforcement officer could just be like, okay, tuck it back in a little. That's what we do at Lowe's. But when I was looking at the drawings, I thought that the south of the building was where they were going to have that overhead thing. But we were just looking at it, I think, earlier today, and it's actually the east of the building that has that overhang. So I don't know if Nick can speak for the applicant or not, but I was thinking it makes the most sense to store that stuff where there's like an overhang. I don't know if they want to store it on the south side of the building because there isn't even going to be a door there. When I was looking at that, I was thinking that they were going to put an overhang and a door on the south side of the building. They aren't. So I think that it's probably worthwhile to discuss exactly where they want the outdoor storage and make sure that we get it right, so it doesn't have to be site
Yeah,
amendment.
thank you, Laura. That was going to be one of my questions, because looking at the drawing, obviously it's not delineated on the drawing. And on the south side, it's pretty much, I believe, just grass there. There's no like cement or
Right.
paved area, concrete or paved area. So I was going to be one of my questions. So maybe, is Nick representing the applicant tonight?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Nick Costa, representing the applicant. There is, as Laura mentioned, there's on the elevations and the building plans, there is the greenhouse, obviously, where it's shown on a site plan. The other area that has an overhang canopy, let's say, for lack of a better term, is on the side, the south side, or I'm sorry, not the south side, the rear side. There is the back elevation as it's shown, that shows an extension over that rear area. I'm not, without speaking to the applicant, I'm not sure if they were planning on storing or displaying back there. That's something that I didn't discuss. I'm going to try to call them and find out if that is if that is an area that they would put in some of the display. Yeah, that area right there, Laura. I'm not sure what that what that represents as far as materials that they may store, may store in there. But that's also in an area where there's ramps and entrances. So I don't know that they can really, display anything there. But I'm going to go on mute and try to call the applicant, if you don't mind, and let me see if I have any success with that. I know that Alejandra, from Foreman Forge, is also on the call.
Hey Nick, yeah. Hey Nick, this is Angelo. So I'm on
hi
the call.
Angelo.
So,
Yep.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
so
Angelo.
I can answer that question. So I was trying to figure out how to unmute. I figured it out. So yes, thank you so much, everyone. So I'm one of the principal owners of the Hatchet Hardware, Hayes Hardware, that we're trying to build in Skinner. And so as far as display and items, we were planning to use. We're probably only going to have 2 or 3 items maybe displayed on the lawn. Is what we were originally thinking. Not that much equipment out there. We really wanted the greenhouse to stand out. That's really our primary focus in the front of the building. We really wanted to look good. We wanted to be attractive to cars passing by and to come inside. So really the front of the building, we really did not want to do much to it. And the most we were thinking maybe 1 or 2 mowers in the front. The side where you walk in on that driveway, it's where we're thinking we'll store some of the outside equipment. Keep it along the side of the building is what we were thinking. And now what I mean is the one that has that service road for the KinderCare, that side of the building. I don't know, not the bank side, the opposite side. As far as the back, it's going to be a little hard, I think, putting stuff in the back where the cars are parked, just because that canopy it's situated is. What we're probably going to end up doing is putting some kind of outdoor stuff, let it be soil, let it be things that people take right away, like salt, propane, stuff like that people might grab in the back. But that's what we're thinking more for the back. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I'll tell you, what I heard was that that condition number 1 stating 50 by 10 area directly adjacent to the south facade is correct, is what I just heard then. It sounds like the east, which is the rear of the building, the parking area, it sounds like that's it's not suitable. So it sounded like you did want to put it along the roadway there. So that would make the condition correct, if I understand you correctly.
That's not quite how I heard along the west side of the building as well. the Knott Street side. That's what I heard as well.
Oh, the Knott Street side, no. The Knott Street side,
I'm
that,
sorry.
that road,
Balltown Road, excuse me.
probably the most we'll do is one of like main lawnmowers, those drive-in. Maybe we'll put it in the front just to be attractive, but not overbearing. Because the primary goal of the greenhouse was to be attractive, to get people inside. And if you end up putting too much equipment in the front, or it would distract that. So we didn't want to be overbearing.
Let me ask a question. So if you have I guess it wouldn't be storage, but it would be a display in front along Balltown Road. Would that be brought back inside at night when you close each night?
We could bring it inside. I mean, that's what the board wants us to do. We can bring it back inside. We generally, this is a unique site, so yeah, we could bring it inside. Or we could bring it along the side road.
I just want to understand what your plans were, because if I think what Mr. McPartland's getting to, if you're going to line stuff up out there, then this condition doesn't work. It doesn't address that would be the west side of the building, the Balltown Road side. If you're only going to, my view is if you've got like lawn mowers or seasonal stuff like a snow blower, if you were going to roll them out there during the day so that people passing by could see them, personally, I don't have a problem with that. It's up to the board, of course, if you're going to just roll them out and then put them back in at night. If you're going to do storage with crates or something and leave it out in front, which sounds like you don't want to do, I guess that would be a problem.
No, we do not want storage. Like, if it's we want the greenhouse to stand out. So we don't want crates or wood pallets or anything out there in the front, because that's going to really, first, it's going to look terrible. It's not going to look nice. And then second of all, it's going to distract the greenhouse, because we want that greenhouse to stand out. We already have trees. It's already a little difficult already. And last thing we want is to make it even more difficult and less attractive. So
Okay.
to answer your question, I think we're on the same page. We don't want.
We are too. Let me just ask the board.
We don't want to use for storage.
Let me just ask the board. I'm sorry, it's hard with this video conference. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So let me ask the board's opinion. If the applicant decides to put a seasonal display out front, such as lawn mowers or snow blowers, and roll them back in at night to secure them, do we need to worry about that at all? Personally, I don't think it's a big deal, but I just wanted to make sure everybody understands that and has no concerns.
I don't. I kind of expected that type of arrangement. I think it was discussed through the planning discussions. Genghis,
Mr. McPartland, do you have any concerns with that at all?
Only if the planning department has any concerns about enforcement of any potential, expansion of that use as they can imagine or foresee. I worry about, theft is probably not an issue, but if this equipment is out there on display, is the snowblower gassed up? I mean, are there safety concerns associated with this machinery sitting out there, for the public to just walk up to? I'm also wondering about just, what is the message that's being sent by showing that equipment, that hardware out there. I hope that's encourages business. I hope that the goal is to bring people in.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Khan? You're on mute, Mr. Khan. You're on mute, Mr. Khan. Did anybody hear me?
Yeah, no, I'm actually called in from my phone also. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we do. Yes, we can.
You can? Okay, because I actually can't hear you guys off of the computer. So I'm not sure, and I've logged out and logged back in, and the same thing keeps happening. But can you hear what I have to say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm a little bit where Mr. McPartland is. So I understood the condition as it was written. South side of the building in that 50 by 10 area. And we seem to be drawing a different line here between storage and display. So did we, when we wrote that resolution, Laura, did we intend storage or display?
It's really meant for display. So what I was envisioning is sometimes Lowe's gets a little carried away, but most hardware stores have a line of like lawnmowers, you know, as you're walking towards the entrance, and then it switches over to like snow blowers in the winter. And I actually think it would be fine on the south side of the building. I was just wondering, you know, there isn't any door on the south side of the building. But if the applicant is fine with the south side of the building, I'm fine with the south side of the building. But as far as enforcement goes, it is easiest to enforce, obviously, if you delineate a certain place for outdoor storage. And that way, if things start to get carried away, and if Angelo is really good about it, but he sells the store in 10 years and somebody likes to put stuff everywhere, if you guys do allow a display on the west side of the building, you know, in front of Balltown Road, then it becomes sometimes a legal argument on what is or is not a display. So obviously it's easiest for us if we just keep one side of the building available for outdoor storage. But if there's a really important reason why you have to have a lawnmower between Balltown Road and
So Laura, I'd like to do two things. And can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, that's fun. It's weird. You're actually hearing me through the computer, and I'm actually hearing you through the phone, just for whatever it's worth. I think that maybe we need to modify the word storage in the first condition to be display. And I would strongly recommend to the owner, to Mr. Costa, that we try to keep all display of outdoor equipment confined to that location. The 50 by 10 pad on the south side of the building. Obviously, it will have an exposure to Balltown Road, because when you're going north on Balltown, you clearly see that corner of the building. It might not have the same kind of exposure to people going south on Balltown, but I'm hoping that you can find that fine. The gentleman who's the owner, I actually didn't catch his name. What's your name again, sir?
Angelo.
Angelo. I agree with you, 110%. Keeping the pretty look on the greenhouse west side facing of the building is going to do a lot, and we really don't want to clutter, even with a display, that side of the building. So my recommendation, if we can change the word storage to display on the condition, Laura, if you and Kevin and the rest of the planning board agree with that.
Yeah,
We keep all outdoor presentation of equipment to be in that space.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Khan. I just would like to hear from the applicant, Angelo. Does that work? What was your intent? If you have enough storage on site, if you get a shipment of, say, lawnmowers or snow blowers in, was the plan to bring them all inside? Is there a storage area, or what were you going to do there?
The storage area for the bigger items, we were thinking on the side of that building where we identify as storage currently. Not the front of the building, not the building in the Balltown Road. I would consider that to be display. And I was thinking about limiting it to like 2 or 3 pieces, like lawnmowers. Biggest thing that's sticking in my mind, that snow blower, it's going to be a little difficult there, just because it's small. So that's what I was thinking. Now, to change that wording from storage to display and saying that we now have to bring all that equipment inside, I just don't think we're going to have the space for it. It's going to be very difficult to do that. And that's along the side.
So the expectation is that, for example, during the night, that equipment will still be out there?
Well, in front of Balltown Road, in front of the greenhouse, you're saying that
that's Balltown Road. The one on the, as the condition states right now, the one on the south side of the building.
What's identified as storage currently is where we thought we were going to store the equipment there, and that's where the canopy is.
Yeah. So Jenkins,
Okay, but the thing is, but that's the point. There is no canopy in the drawings, though.
I thought I think where the canopy was going to be, the one that's along the Care Service Road, along that road, along that side of the building. Isn't that identified as storage currently?
well, the east side is the side that the parking lot is on. Is that what you're referring to, Angelo?
The east side, on the parking side, I'm referring to where the road is that goes to Care in that lower front.
The road, If the road you'll not be using, that road is the south side.
Or the south side. Then I'm preferring to the south side, which I thought it was already identified as storage.
That's right, but there's no canopy on the south side.
I apologize. I think we were floating an idea about canopy or not, so I apologize.
So Genghis, this is Chris. I don't think we should change the word from storage to display. I think we might want to say storage/display. And it doesn't sound like, and I didn't expect that we'd be moving items in and out of that area at night. I thought that they would stay there, stored there, but they're also acting as a display.
So just so you know, that was my original understanding, but my only concern then is if we leave the word as storage, the way the drawings are right now only supports that there's outdoor open storage of whatever is going to be in that 50 by 10 location. Right? So something has to, you know, back to Mr. McPartland's point, right? If we're I mean, I don't think you'd want to store the equipment out in the open.
But
we store equipment out in the open, and currently that's what we do in other sites. We keep
it's outdoor.
So
Yeah.
if that's a normal practice for you, and let's just maybe have another pass with the planning board, obviously. So back to the question that was asked, for example, equipment that takes gas or that can be started, will they be fueled, etc., or?
Are you saying about fuel? Is it, do we put fuel?
So
Usually
will you,
don't.
so will you have gas in the whatever stored there, like a snowblower, a lawnmower, etc.? Will they be fueled and be able to be used, or?
If we end up bringing it to the front of the building, like where the lawn is, and saying, okay, at nighttime we're going to bring it back, and during the day we're going to display it, we have to use fuel because it's going to be very difficult to move it back and forth. If it's used just for assembly purposes, then we probably could get away with not fueling it. But generally, we don't put much fuel. It's very, very minimum. But if we end up like the front side saying, hey, you have to bring everything back inside, away from Bolton Road, and bring it to that designated storage area, we will have to have some fuel. It's going to be very hard to move it without fuel.
Okay, let me interject. So here's what I hear. I hear that condition number one is what the applicant was expecting, and whether it's the word storage does work because whether or not it's fueled or, you know, whether a customer can see it, it's really irrelevant. So I think condition number one is what the applicant was expecting for storage. Okay. It sounds to me that the applicant would also like to be able to like put an occasional snow blower, lawnmower, whatever out front, and then return it to the storage area at night, which is not mentioned at all in the resolution. I don't know if it needs to be. We can add in the condition if you'd like, but that, you know, no overnight storage in front, if that makes everybody feel comfortable. Personally, I don't have a problem. You know, I don't think the applicant's going to leave, you know, crates out front. So if there's a lawnmower out there, I guess vandalism would be the only concern, you know, theft, vandalism. But I'm open.
Right. Yeah. So, Mr. Walsh, I don't think we need to change now that we've had a discussion about storage versus display on the south side. I don't think we need to change the condition in the resolution. I'm going to leave it up to the applicant that he'll protect his own equipment during storage. Right. But we also want to make sure that if somebody walking by the building would have access to that equipment during storage while it's being stored, that obviously we're all aware of that, and precautions would have been taken. In terms of the new item then, which is display on the Balltown Road side of the building, it's clear there that anything that would happen there would really just be display. And you know, there really can't be anything permanent, right? I don't think we need a condition for that, but let me pass it by the rest of the board members. You know, what do you feel relative to that? I think, Laura, the planning department would it enforce a display the same way it would enforce a storage area?
So if display is temporary and it kind of comes and goes, it would not be typically I mean, then it wouldn't be an issue, And what we're trying to avoid is the creep of, a whole bunch of machines all around the building, which we do. I mean, it's not a big deal. What we typically do, as long as it's very clear in the resolution or wherever, is just go down to the manager and just be like, "You're creeping," and just rein it back in a little, and then they usually do.
Right, and I think our creep concern is with the concept of storage, right? And I think the resolution as written covers that, right? Like I said, I was just surprised that there wasn't a canopy or anything else shown where that's going to be in. Okay, I mean that's
Okay,
not our
so
call, right?
what I hear from the project leads is that they're fine with the conditions as presented in the resolution that we just motioned and move for adoption. Is there any
Correct.
concern about the display from anyone else on the board in front?
I'd just like to finish I'd like to round out my opinion by stating that a few words, Chairman Walsh, that you used, I think I'd quite like to see. My hope would be that we could just modify condition number 1 slightly to say that overnight storage is limited to that area on the south side, just to make it clear that we don't want anything stored overnight anywhere else.
Okay. That's one way to handle it. Another way to handle it, Mr. McPartland, would have another condition to say any temporary display on the west side or on the Balltown Road side would have to be returned to the storage area at night, one way or the other, right? Either way, whatever's easier. So I think it'd be easier just to modify condition number 1 to what you were suggesting, basically to return. To return anything to the storage area at night?
Well, no, it would just be. It was, according to what Mr. McPartland said, it would just be adding the word overnight.
Yeah, so overnight outdoor storage is limited to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of handling it, because then anything that they put out for a display has to be movable.
Yeah, that sounds easier too. Thank you, Mr. McPartland. So, Mr. McPartland, is that a motion to modify condition number 1 to add the word overnight outdoor storage?
Yes, so moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to modify the condition number 1 resolution. We have a second on that. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll second it. How's that? All right, so we have all those in favor of modifying the resolution, adding the words overnight to condition number 1, signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, then we have a modified resolution now. Any other discussion? Any other concerns from the applicant at all?
While we have the applicant, I raised this question with Mr. Costa at the last meeting, and it may have been addressed, but I was wondering if there is a need to identify an area in the parking lot where any shopping carts, if used, will be stored during the operational hours or overnight.
Usually shopping carts. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, Angelo, I was going to ask you if you could respond to McParson's request. Are you going to have any shopping carts, and where would those be stored if there is shopping carts?
Shopping carts are very limited in the hardware store. It's not unlike a supermarket. And most of our shopping carts, even in Brunswick, we don't store any of them outside. Everything's inside the store. And we only have a handful. So it's not like a supermarket. You end up having a lot of shopping carts. It's not like that. So we're not going to need a very large area to store the shopping carts. We might, if things get out of hand, we may that's the area where customers leave it behind. But normally, if something's big, it's heavy, usually retail associates ends up helping the customer to their car. So, and they return the cart back to the store. That's generally how we do in Brunswick, and that's a bigger store. I can't imagine being much different here.
Okay, thanks, Angelo. I think that responds to the question.
So the key thing is that any shopping cart type carts will be stored inside the store.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments for the applicant or regarding the resolution? Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, we have a modified resolution. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributennis,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. DiArpino,
Aye.
Mr. Oster,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. Okay, resolution passes unanimously. Congratulations, and I know we're on the agenda for discussion regarding signage later on in the meeting, so we'll get back to that hopefully in a few minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have next resolution for tonight is Resolution 2020-19, a resolution for site plan approval for tenant changes to a professional office building at 4017 State Street. This Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the reference new tenant Color Pro Suite A and Allstate Insurance Suite C site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan and Senate change. We don't have a project lead for this one, so I'll move that we adopt the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Oster, second by Mr. Oster. And any discussion at all? Guess I think Mr. Fusco is online. Looks like it's pretty straightforward, and it's a swap insurance company for an insurance company. And the other applicant is low intensity, so the site plan meets the requirements, and there shouldn't be any issues. So it's pretty straightforward.
I do the dishes.
So
I'm here.
Yep. Do you have any questions or comments, sir?
No, I don't.
Okay. So I think we're in good shape. Anybody else have anything? Questions or comments? No? Okay. So I move the resolution. It was seconded by Mr. Oster. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributennis,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. DiArpino,
Aye.
Mr. Oster,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. The resolution is approved and the tenant change is approved. So thank you, Mr. Fusco, and good luck over there.
Okay.
If you have any questions, give Laura or Mr. Henry a call and we'll be all set.
Now we're all set with the sign permit as well?
That's my understanding. Yep.
Yeah, so the signage is good. We just have to, the building permit can't issue it until the planning board has their approval. So now the building department would issue it and then give, if it was applied for by you or the sign company, we'll call whichever person's on the building permit and let them know that it's ready to be picked up.
And Laura, this is for the Color Pro, correct?
I
Or for
mean,
both of them?
Clark remembers which building permit it was for. I think it's Allstate actually. So Color, you don't need a building permit. Yeah, Clark. Yeah, he's right.
All right,
Because you don't need a building permit to pop the sign out of the monument. Like if you're just popping out a panel, you don't need a building permit for that. The building permit is for them to redo the facade sign.
Okay, well, Allstate submitted a permit for some signage on the building, more than the pylon.
Yes. Yep. That's what we had the building permit for.
Okay.
And that's okay because it's swapping out and that's what was approved on this resolution.
Okay, so we're all set.
You're all set.
Very good.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, have a good night. sir.
Bye now.
All right. And let's see. So that's, we're all set there. You called the roll there, right? Yes, we're all set there. All right. So third resolution for tonight is Resolution 2020-20, a resolution for site plan approval for a new monument sign at 2565 Balltown Road, the Schenectady JCC. Okay. This Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the monument sign on the property located at 2317 Balltown Road as shown in the rendering entitled the Ludwig JCC and Golden Family Campus dated 7/13/2020 in conjunction with said waivers meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals and therefore hereby approves the site plan subject to the following conditions. Number one, the internal lighting shall meet the intent of the code to minimize glare to adjacent properties and streets. The lighting is required to automatically dim in evening and nighttime hours, and the lighting shall be turned off between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. 2, following the installation of the sign, there will be a 2-week trial period, after which the applicant will meet with the planning department and planning board project leads to finalize the appropriate color and brightness settings of the sign, which will be recorded in a memorandum and attached to the final copy of the filed resolution. 3, the changeable nature of the sign shall operate similarly to a time and temperature sign. It shall be non-flashing, non-animated, and non-revolving as required by code. The sign message will remain static each day to mimic the look of a changeable copy sign, and the message will only be changed at the beginning or end of each day if necessary. The monument sign shall be installed in the same location as the existing sign. And those are the conditions as they stand right now. Let's have a motion, Mr. McPartlin, on this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption.
Okay, Mr. McPartlin, move for adoption. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Mr. Laflamme. And we'll have some discussion. I think I did read a change in condition number 3, just it was a typo, temperate to temperature. So I think we can just handle that as a friendly change, just a typo. But I think we're going to, Mr. McPartlin, I think we want to have some discussion on condition number 1, the hours. Right, from what I heard at the beginning of the meeting, I know, Mr. McPartlin, if you were there, but it sounded like Laura came up with 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., but they're actually open till 10 o'clock. So is a thought there that we modify that? I don't know, Mr. McPartlin, if you have any thought on that at all.
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't privy to that discussion. You know, there are a lot of signs that are that serve for wayfinding purposes, and I can understand certainly they would coincide with hours of operation. This is a bit more of an informational sign. The applicant has also generously offered their sign real estate to post public service announcements at the town's behest or county's behest. So I'm not so sure there's a need for the strict hours requirement, but that's sort of just where I stand. In looking at the sign and considering the other conditions attached to it, it's a non-animated sign. It doesn't distract much, and also when you consider the lack of traffic on this typically busy corridor during the period of time indicated on this condition, I just don't see the harm in allowing them to display signs after those hours.
Any other thoughts from
So to everyone else's feelings on that, I certainly wouldn't want to set a precedent, but I do feel as though this is, again, it's an more of an informational purpose than wayfinding.
Yeah. See, my input is that I can understand, since they're open to 10 o'clock, at a minimum, I would suggest that we change it to 10, because with the lights on, you know, somebody's home, I guess, right? Lights on or open, right? At a minimum. I think the thought here is that we didn't want to have any stray light or light pollution that might, you know, impact the neighbors that live nearby, and that's why it was trying to have some kind of a time restriction on it. But I'm open to listen to what the rest of the board says. Of course.
I think adjusting to 10 o'clock is fine, and I think it's kind of a good little balance. And I think the fact that it's connected to the time when it's open, I think sort of a natural connection.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, what's the proximity to the abutters to the north or south of the sign? I'm trying to go to Google Maps. I don't see much. I mean, I think there's limited interference or limited light pollution chances. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess that's in generally, I tend to agree with that. I mean, they're gonna do some cleanup there on the corner. There is a house down that driveway that they're, you know, I guess they have agreement to clean up and do some landscaping there, as shown in the site plan. So maybe after the cleanup, maybe it would be noticeable to them, and maybe, so I guess kind of where I'm at, and again, I'll leave it up to the board, but I think if we modify it to 10 o'clock, it coincides with the hours of operation. If it doesn't work out, the applicant can come on back to say that we need to have it on all night long, unless the board feels strongly about, they'd rather just strike condition number 1 and completely. I can go either way.
I just have a question, Chairman. When we have a sign on Balltown Road that's lit, do we have the requirement of the timer being aligned with the time of operation, or is it just stagnant through the dark hours?
I think it's just, I don't think we control it. I think if a different business has a lit sign, I think they, unless there's a special condition in their resolution, they just leave it lit or turn it off as they see fit.
Okay, because this is internally lit and there's no external lights flashing beyond, or interfering with anything but the visibility of the actual sign.
Yeah, I would remind the board that one of the waivers, the waiver that we are granting is because it is internally lit. So, so if we have an internally lit sign and we don't control the hours of operation, it could be something that might set a precedent for the rest of the town. So if you want to be conservative, we could just change it to 10 o'clock and, get this moving forward and see how it works out. If that's...
I don't want to belabor the point, but the point I wanted to finish prior. We believe when the sign is off, if there's no light, then there's no sign. So if that's their only marker of who they are, if it's off, quote unquote, I believe there's nothing on display saying that there's a building there.
Yeah,
So that was my question. Yeah.
That's a good point, Chris. Laura or Chris, or Mr. Henry or someone, maybe the current sign is there. Is that lit all night long? Or maybe the applicant if they're online?
I do not know if it's lit all night long.
Yeah, I don't know either. Sorry.
So
well, it's not that it's lit, it's just that it's there. So if you had a flashlight or your car, your lights would indicate it's JCC. In this instance, it's a digital sign that looks like an analog sign. If it's not on, there's no indication as to who they are. That was my point.
No, the top, you can still see the top though. You'll still be able to see the top.
And that's JCC and it's not lit.
Wait, when you say you can still see the top though, does that mean the top can be illuminated? I was thinking when you said 10 o'clock, I think that's a whole sign.
Yeah, I mean, I would say turn the whole sign off, but if you turn the whole sign off and the headlights hit it, you'd still be able to see the top.
Okay, okay. The whole sign still might have to go off at 10 o'clock, the whole sign.
Yeah, I really would be interested to know if the sign stays on all night right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here we go. Just President Jason, yes, the sign, the comment went away quicker than I could read it, but it sounded like the sign stays on, is what it said.
It stays on, that's what she said.
Yeah, there is some safety advantage, obviously, if you're trying to find the location of an emergency to have the sign on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with it being on all night. But I actually think if we were going to change the language, we should leave the first sentence and then just remove the second.
And I just want to make a comment, and I just want to state this. Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm all for the sign at the JCC, and we know what our code says about electronic signs, about blinking signs, etc. We're obviously dealing with a new sign technology that does make it look a little bit analog. And I agree with Mr. Muflam. I think the sign actually, if it's turned off, there is no sign. So I think, Laura, you're referring to either some kind of additional lighting that is there on the structure that the sign is in, maybe pointing to the words JCC or something else. And I think that actually might be something similar to what's there today. Because I know that sign is readable when you're driving down Balltown Road, heading north. The key thing that I just want to put in the record is we will set a precedence for this type of sign, and we will get more applicants in that zoning coming with this kind of sign. And so whatever it is we need to now at this point to establish a level of control over how that will play out, I'd like us to take that into consideration too.
I have a suggestion. If I may, under condition 1, if we were to leave the first sentence and the second sentence up to the comma, just strike and the lighting shall be turned off between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. So it's still, that would still say that the lighting is required to be automatically dim in the evening. And then if you look at condition number 2, number 2 says that the planning department and planning board project leads would take a look at it, and that would cover how dim is at night under that condition already. So I think that's an easy way to get through it. But everybody understands what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah, I agree. And to Jengus's point, we don't want to set a precedence. These signs can be very muted, look like a regular old-fashioned sign. However, the technology in that sign also allows the user to do a lot more. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it regardless.
Yeah.
And that's I think it's a situation. New manager of the facility comes in, they're playing with the user interface, and they decide to make it a rainbow. So we're probably going to have to do that regardless.
Yeah, and condition 2 allows that to occur. So it doesn't state during, it just says following installation, there will be a 2-week trial period. Applicant will meet the planning department, planning board project leads to finalize the appropriate color and brightness settings of the signs. So the settings would include the nighttime dim, reduced, what is it called? Automatically dim in the evening and nighttime hours.
Okay,
And that could be established by and included in that memorandum.
I do have to say one thing about it. The only part that's can dim automatically is the electronic message center, which is the white part of the sign. The blue part, we cannot dim automatically at night. But luckily, blue blocks out a lot of light. When you put blue line on white background, it's dim, it's a lot dimmer already than like a bright white background. So it should be okay.
Laura, could you?
That's what the sign is right now, right? Right now, the sign is blue vinyl with white background, and it's internally lit.
Blue
blocks
out a lot of light compared to a white background. The blue will be not as bright as a white background, but we cannot dim that automatically. But the bottom portion can be dimmed automatically at any time, which it's already going to dim down at nighttime.
Laura, could you pull up the sign, please, and just and show that so we can have that discussion and look at it.
So Pat, are you saying that the Gold Family Campus blue portion and then the portion below that displays a message, and then the mailing address 2565, those are all separately controlled lights?
The mailing address doesn't light up at all.
Oh, okay.
So the blue portion, is internally illuminated with LEDs behind it. We cannot dim that automatically. And the other portion where it says sign up for swim lessons, that can be dimmed automatically at night. But luckily, being that the blue background, it's not as bright as like I said. If it was a white background, it'd be a lot brighter at night. So I don't think there's gonna be a problem with that blue background because they're not bright.
Do you guys want to see the existing sign that's there, though? I think it's very similar.
It looks about the same, similar.
Right, but the one that's there right now isn't a LED, so it might even be less bright than the one that's there right now.
The one there now is blue background also, correct? Yes.
I just love dropping the little guy. Little guy. Here he is.
Can the blue background be turned off, but the message board still dim?
See, here's oh, the one right now is white. So this thing glows right now, right? And you're saying it glows all night long.
Oh, that's a white background. I know something? That white background is going to be brighter than a blue background.
Yeah. So that's what's there right now, and the whole thing glows, right?
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. So I didn't realize the white background. I forgot. So the blue background blocks out a lot of light. When you put the blue line on top of white, it blocks it out.
And we'll dim this part down. This part dims down right here.
The bottom part can be dimmed automatically. That's what we can really control. Like we can put it where we think it should be. If you think it's too bright, we can make it dimmer.
And the other thing that we talked about, which is the reason that it says color in the resolution, is if it's darker and ends up being better for the neighborhood, you could change it to a black background with white letters.
You could do that, yeah.
I just, for the benefit of the entire group in the call, I did want to comment the Barbara Walton, representing the applicant, is chatting with us, and she's making some very good points that if the lights are lit in some way, it alerts people driving on the road if someone is entering or leaving the premise, such as for maintenance and such. And coming back from points north in the dark, the JCC sign is a welcome sight, because
Yeah.
Baltimore Road is sometimes not well lit. So I just want to share that with the call, that's all.
And I do have another thing to say. They're doing a beautiful landscaping job. Fatikins is doing that nice landscaping work. And that light's gonna make the landscaping show up. That's gonna look nice driving by.
Yeah.
And you won't see it. You won't see it if the sign's turned off. You won't see that landscaping. And you see
Yeah,
what the
thank you. How about I try this? How about on condition 1, we just add the internal message lighting, add the word message in front of lighting so that the intent of condition number 1 is just for the message portion of the sign.
Yeah.
That would work.
Whoop. Sorry.
And then that would allow the other portion of the sign to stay lit, the JCC portion on top. And then condition number 2, we're going to look at it anyway. So if there's a problem with the top, we could see whether it can be reduced under condition number 2 if there was a need.
That sounds good.
Okay, so we will stop it at nighttime hours here, right? Is what you're saying? So we'll say internal message. Sorry, annoying. Internal message light shall meet the intent of the code to minimize glare to adjacent properties and streets. The lighting is required to the internal message.
Yeah, the message lighting. Yeah.
Internal message. Oh.
I just want to have a discussion.
And then what are we changing down here?
Nothing. I think that covers it because you're still going to look at the sign in condition number 2. And if there's an issue with the top portion, I think condition number 2 covers that,
Laura, while you're at it, just one friendly change in the recital above. And further resolved, you identify the property as 2317 Balltown Road. I think you just have to modify it to 2565, just above.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Scributinus. I missed that one too.
I missed that one too. That's why. I was just looking up to see what we did with the McPartland building sign to see if we set lighting hours on that sign. And this resolution came up and I was like, why did this resolution come up? And that's because of that number there. But just for the record, we did not set hours on the lighting of the McPartland building sign.
Okay, so Patrick, what do you think of that? We just modify condition 1, let's say the message portion. And then again, condition number 2, when you go out to look at it and set the memorandum of understanding, if there's any adjustment required in the top portion, you could address it at that time. Does that sound reasonable?
I like that a lot. It gives us the flexibility to evaluate this in real life once it's installed, and also just want to address the issue of setting precedent, which has been by other members of the board. I do feel as though since we're dealing with this newer technology of internally lit signs, the is really being very conservative in terms of light pollution and distraction for vehicular traffic. I think they've gone above and beyond in terms of addressing any concerns with respect to safety and changing the character of the neighborhood on off hours. So, thank you.
Okay. All right. Unless there's any other comments, let me make a motion that we modify the resolution. We got a couple of changes. One is we'll change as pointed out by Mr. Scributinus, the address to 2565. We'll correct that. We'll correct in condition number 3 the word that's temperate to temperature, and then on condition number 1 we'll clarify it that it's the message portion of the internal sign. At 2 locations, first and second sentence will add the word message. Okay, so I'll make that motion. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Mr. McPartland? Second by Mr. Oster. Any discussion on those changes or on the resolution at all? Does that work for everybody now? Mr. McPartlin, sound good?
Yep.
Okay, all right, got a thumbs up. I'll give you 2. So, okay, so we have modified resolution, or we had a motion and a second. I guess all those in favor of modifying the resolution as proposed signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, hearing no one opposed, we have a modified resolution with those minor changes. Most importantly, the message portion of the sign being controlled only. At least for condition number 1. Any questions from the applicant at all or concerns?
Yes, how long will it take to us to get the permit issued to us?
So typically it takes us 2 weeks to review a building permit. It is a little bit different with COVID-19 because some of our staff is still encouraged to work from home. But it's anywhere between a week and a half to 3 weeks.
Okay. That's no problem. I have one question. Could we start manufacturing it and then not install it till we get the permit?
I mean, the permit has to meet all building codes. Like if you're comfortable that it does, you're doing so at your own risk until the town issues a building permit. But you know the sign codes better than I do. As far as square footage and planning board goes, you're okay. But
right.
I would always.
You'll be okay as soon as we vote on the resolution as amended. And then, because we haven't taken a vote on the amended resolution yet.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Kevin,
No problem.
Kevin, this is Clark. I have a slight question, just for clarity. Are we saying it will read, the internal message lighting shall meet the intent of the code to minimize glare to adjacent properties and streets? The internal message lighting is required to automatically dim in evening and nighttime hours, period.
No. No, I think we're still turning off that portion, right? The lower portion?
No, we're just dimming it, right?
Yeah, I thought we were just dimming it.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
not turning it off.
So we're gonna, I apologize. I lost the bubble where I was at there. You're right.
Yeah. Does someone want to display when you were displaying the resolution earlier with the mod, it was clear, right?
Right. So we're gonna strike in the lighting shall be turned off between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. It'll just be dimmed. Is that your understanding, Mr. McPartlin?
Yeah, I appreciated that Laura made the edit right in front of us. So what she had written looked good to me.
Okay.
In support of this, as it's written there on the screen. And as
Right. Does that clarify your question, Mr. Henry?
Yes, yes.
And Laura's already got the words. Okay. All right. Any other questions or concerns? We're all clear on that? Okay. All right, Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll on the resolution as amended?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scribby-Tennis,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. DiArpino,
Aye.
Mr. Oster,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye. Okay, the resolution passes. Thank you, everybody, for working through that. I appreciate it. And I think we have a pretty good product there. And the other condition that allows us to have a trial period and make adjustments on the intensity is important. And like Mr. McPartlin said, that can help set precedents. So that's a very important part. Once the sign gets up, to take a look, see how well it's performing, and make sure we get that memorandum of understanding of how it's going to operate. So thank you very much. Anything else on that subject at all? Any questions from the applicant before we move on?
No.
Okay, great. So thank you, everybody. That's it for new business. We're done with resolutions. So we're going to move on to the discussion portion of the meeting. First on.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. First up under discussion is 1448 Balltown Road, the Ace Hardware sign package review. I guess I could, and that's Mr. Khan, Mr. Laflamme, if you want to take it away. We did have I just mentioned we did have the second resolution, which is now the agenda statement that explains the waivers and the number of signs and everything. So we could talk about that and see what y'all think.
Yeah. So I think that's the key part to start from. And I apologize. I was in doing I didn't get to complete the homework I was doing, which was just trying to sort each sign with each waiver. But I'm thinking, Laura, you might be able to walk us through this. So one of the main reasons why we didn't want to actually have this resolution be the one on the table for vote tonight is, one, I don't think we discussed it at all, or at least recently, in terms of the current drawings that are submitted. The second thing is the fact that the resolution actually was kind of complex. And I think having simpler resolutions, even if multiple of them, because it seems that not only there are waivers, but there's also town board action that might be necessary for at least one of these. Is that true, Laura?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it is.
So anyway, could we at least go through in whatever way you think makes sense? I think it would be great probably if you could display maybe each of the signs and then the corresponding comment. As far as I'm concerned, any sign that does not require a waiver is good to go, right? Which is the default and straightforward statement to make, right? So it's really the ones that we would have.
Yeah, I mean, but the bottom line is, and while Laura's pulling that up, there's 5 facade signs on the west facade and 1 on the east. So there's a number of waivers because of the numbers of signs at both of those locations. A waiver of 4 on the west side and a waiver of 1 on the east side. So I think it'd be best, let's just take the facade signs first and we'll just talk about those. And see how everybody feels about that.
Right, and keeping in mind that there is, I think, both a set of, constraints and a set of liberties I think we could take, given that this is town center overlay, right?
Yeah. So so I didn't put everything in the agenda statement because I didn't want to overwhelm you guys, but Morgan Stanley did get some relief on their old signs, but none of the sign package that was submitted is the same. So I just figured the cleanest and best way to handle it is to just, look at the sign package as it is and issue the waivers if you are comfortable with them. But for the record, Morgan Stanley did have a sign on the western portion here, and they did get a waiver for it. So this, I think, is maybe not the same size and not the same location, which is why I thought we should include it in the waiver just to be clean and clear and safe for the applicant. But there is a precedence for a sign on the west side of the building. So this one was put in as a waiver because there really isn't an internal street behind there. It's really just a parking lot, even though you can drive through the parking lot. But this has a precedence of being there. And then obviously you are allowed 1 facade sign up to 50 square feet facing Balltown Road. This sign, the Hatchet Hardware, I think would be, because that's the name of the store, would be the one that was, implicitly allowed. Which I don't have the numbers in front of me, but 6 feet by 4 feet, it's like 24 square feet, a little bit less. So it's not even a 50 square foot sign. And so then you're talking about these 4 signs here needing a waiver. They're each 2 by 7, so 14 square feet each.
Laura, are you gonna display your screen, or let's not
Oh,
display?
you can't see? I thought you could see. Sorry. My thing was showing me that it was displayed. Sorry.
No, we were.
No problem.
Still no. Here we go. It's coming.
Is it coming? Okay, good. Right. I was happily circling everything. Okay, here. So this is the one I was talking about. This one on the east side, that one has a precedence. But I just figured to be cleaner, we would just include that one. And then so this one is the greenhouse, the front that's facing Balltown Road, and this one would be allowed by right, and it's smaller than what would be allowed by right. And then these, because you're allowed 1 facade sign up to 50 square feet. Then these guys are additional facade signs. They're each 14 square feet each, which is 28. So they're actually not even honestly very far over the 50 square feet that's allowed, 24 plus 28.
Right. So that was the first thing that I wanted to ask Laura. If we take a look at the total square footage of so it's really the signs on this western facade. I agree with you with the one on the east side of the building. That was, again, you'd said there was a precedence for that from Morgan Stanley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but if we look at the 5 on the
West.
Balltown Road facade, the western facade of the building, how do they stack up area-wise compared to the total area that they'd be permitted with a single sign on that facade?
Yeah, so I'm
I'm
rounding up
sorry.
on the one, right? But you would
Yeah,
have
that's part of the homework I was in the
2.
midst of
Yeah,
doing
so you're
right now.
2 square feet over what would the allowable, actually it's less. It may even be exactly 50 square feet. It's
Yeah,
very,
Laura,
very close to what the square footage would be that's allowed.
on page 2 of the proposed resolution, you had 56 square feet total.
Oh,
on the
there you
west-
go. Okay.
On the western facade is what you said. So it's 6 square feet over.
Okay.
Okay.
And I would.
Go ahead, Chris.
So I could see being okay with a waiver, at least based on a closeness in the area basis, right? So we could come back to the point about size, number of signs versus area, but let's maybe just take a quick comments from folks on the colors, right?
Well, I'll give.
Sorry, guys. Point of clarification. This is what happens when I do math on the fly. It's 56 square feet with the 4 signs because it's 28 on one side of the building and 28 on the other side of the building. So the total square footage for all 5 signs is like 70 square feet. So it is a little bit more than 50 square feet.
And Laura, just remind us, the signs to the left, to the north, are just letters in a small branding icon. We're actually only supposed to count the letters square footage, not the white, or is it the whole sign?
Yeah, I mean, this is the way they have, and I think there is someone who's from Foreman Forge on the line here. I mean, this is, as far as I can tell, empty space on either side of the Toro. But if they manufacture the sign to be 2 feet by 7 and it just happens to be white space, we would still count it. That's kind of up to them.
We do put, this is Angelo. Yeah, it's white space. I mean, Benjamin Moore, the Toro, that will be additional white space. So we try to keep it uniform, 2 by 7, and not kind of make it look ugly by making one smaller and one bigger. We want it to be all proportional, and that's why. But not every sign fits perfectly. Like steel fits perfectly, but Toro does not.
So this will be manufactured with white space on either side, and it will count as a 2 by 7 foot sign.
Thanks for answering that. So my take, this is Chris. It was mentioned before. We're all looking at the aesthetics. Is it balanced? If the signs were any smaller, would you be able to see them? There's a real balance act going on where we want to submit. So I would like to see symmetry on both sides of the glass house, which this has. Signs much smaller, it'd be really hard to see. It defeats the purpose a little bit. So I would recommend that we consider, that variance for a larger total square footage, given the types of signs and the actual aesthetic of the building before we get into colors.
Well, I'll give you my opinion as usual. I'm okay with the facade signs. I think they, as like the applicant stated, they seem to be proportional. They seem to be reasonable size. There was precedent sent or previously approvals on the south side. Was it the south side, right, Laura? No, east side.
East side.
So,
The east side.
East side. So I didn't have any problem with the facade signs. I think we're going to need some discussion on the monument, but facades I was pretty good with if everybody else was.
I'm close on the facades, even with that 70 versus 50. The only thing I wanted to ask about the color options on the still, mostly, maybe a little bit of the color options on the Toro. Angelo, they do obviously, affect the symmetry of the view, right? In those color, are those color options hard and fast?
Those are color from the manufacturer. The only way I can pick a different color is by picking a different brand. Toro is one of those brands that require a sign somewhere in the building in order to get what do you call it? A dealership.
Yeah,
to be an authorized dealer.
Okay.
So it's a little, that won't be. But I could put Toro in the back and then maybe just something else in the front if that red color really bothers.
Well, I mean, I'm just bringing it up, right? At the end of the day, it's what I'm just bringing it up as a point, right? I mean, I personally can be okay with it. I just wanted to know what the options were, and also for the rest of the planning board to weigh in.
That's a good comment, Genghis. One option too would be to swap like the Toro with one of the more white signs to the left of the drawing that we're looking at, so it balances the colors versus
Yeah.
having the orange and the red next to each other. That would be another way of doing it too, you know. But I'm okay with the size and the number personally.
So a couple observations. I know that you want to take out 3 trees, but there's still going to be limited visibility. Yeah, correct. There's the one on the corner, the one right up against the building, and then one of the smaller ones. Actually, it's going to be 4 trees because there's another one on the corner of the property too. But even though those 2 trees that you're keeping, there's still going to be obscured views driving up and down Balltown Road. And the other thing is that this is directly across from a residential area. Is there any advantage to putting all of these signs on the east side and just have the monument sign on the corner and then the Hatchet Hardware sign on the greenhouse? Most of the parking and most of your customers are going to be coming in off of Knott Street and coming into the back area.
David, I guess I'm not even sure how, because I have trouble picturing this, and we're getting a look at the elevations finally. But I almost feel as though without these signs in the front and without an ACE sign on the facade, it during the daytime will just be an office-like building, house, and some lawnmowers parked out front. I might be wondering what it is exactly. You know, it says Hatchet Hardware, and you know there's an ACE monument sign proposed in the right of way there. But for me, the hardware store and these manufacturer facade signs, they're synonymous. You kind of get a sense of, you know, you look at it and you know instantly that it's a hardware store. So I'm conflicted about that because of my concern about feasibility, you know, with and driving business to the store. That's my 2 cents.
This is Chris. I would second that. I think it actually complements and clarifies for the public the purpose of the store, and it's small and balanced.
Well, Phillips Hardware on Union Street did not have any signs out. They had a couple in the windows, but it just said Phillips Hardware. And Lowe's and Home Depot don't have a ton of other vendors plastered on their facades either.
Yeah.
And Ace is a very recognizable name, and having the monument signs on Knott Street and Balltown Road, and this is the only reason I'm bringing this up. If this wasn't directly across from a neighborhood, I'd have no problem with the signs being on the facade. If it was in ShopRite Plaza, no issue. I'm just thinking maybe we should think about, are they best suited on Balltown Road? And given the fact that some of those street trees are going to stay, there will be limited visibility on those signs. And that's just a pre-existing condition of the way that the street is currently.
Those are good comments, and I'm open personally.
I think it's balanced. I mean, 4 would probably be the limit of what they could have on there and have it be done tastefully. But I think, you know, the Ace Hardware speaks for itself, and the monument signs would, and the Hatchet Hardware, what they've had for their branding, which is on the greenhouse, would be more than sufficient.
So this is Chris. Dave, I appreciate you bringing that point and really, you know, hammering home the concept of the fact this is our business district. We have to make some decisions on stores like this. If someone else were to put a store in where manufacturers had a certain expectation of visibility, it could become an issue that could, could live into the future and some future decisions. I'm still in favor of having them. However, you drive through some metro centers in certain pockets of the U.S., and you'll see some townships make a concerted effort to have those signs and the brands look the same, but there's no color. They make a consistent effort to dull down the brand by having it be like a standard town center gray or town center tan. So I wanted to bring up that second point when I just meant about colors. Do we want to set that precedence? Have we already with this particular project? Because it will be something that I think we'll have to decide on over and over. And maybe this has already been a concept we've decided on in the past with certain colors in the center, like we have the greens for the ShopRite Plaza. But I just thought I'd bring that up. If we're going to have signs and they're brand signs, do we mute them by removing the color and have it be consistent for everyone?
And it sounds like from the applicant, though, that there's a concern or a requirement to have, have a license agreement or whatever in order to sell those products, right? One option would be to, obviously have the applicant consider relocating signs, to David's point, maybe putting them on the south or the east side, but also having a condition that maybe after it's closed, those facade signs, only certain signs can stay on at night so that, it doesn't impact the neighborhood also. Like for instance, like the facade signs get turned off except for maybe the name of the hardware store at, whatever the store hours are or something along those lines.
So if I can comment a little bit. So every Ace Hardware store is very different. Not every brand is allowed to be sold in every store. So these brands are what we determined was very important to this area. And we believe that these brands are really going to carry the store, because at the end of the day, these are considered kind of the best brands and that drive traffic to the store. So when people see steel, they're very, very noticeable. People look for it, they know the orange, those customers that like that product, they're going to notice it right away, and that's going to attract them to the store. So in that sense, that's one of the reasons why we kept it kind of small. We don't need to be very big. We thought 2x7 is a very good size. It's not too big and it's not too small, because we don't need to be overbearing, but enough that people will recognize the name. As far as the light concern, we didn't do any light boxes and stuff like that, because we also felt it would be being a little bit in a residential area, and we really don't like the look as much anyway. The light themselves is an arm that goes out and shines to the light. So it's not going to go out, it's going to go towards the light. So you're not going to get, people across the street seeing a light. Like if we put a light box, that's going to shine towards that area. This light shines to the building itself, and it bounces off.
So let's just be clear for a minute. What is the light? I'm having a hard time seeing it, so maybe I'm missing it. What is the lighting arrangement on those, the Toro, the Still, the Benjamin Moore, and the Carhartt signs? What kind of lighting are they going to have?
They're little arms, like almost like gooseneck arms. So they go out and have like a little gooseneck to it, and it shines back in. So the light will come out from the goose arm, and it goes shine towards the light.
So it's externally.
One of the drawings, one of the lights drawings, it shows a little bit better picture of that. If you look at the one of the where the monument sign is, that one has a good drawing of the kind of the gooseneck light.
I mean, I see the lights on the monument sign.
Yeah, it shines towards the light. So the light comes out, it shines against the sign. That's what that lights up the sign, and it goes out. And we put two of them. She put two or three. She put two, on one on each side, so that way it's not overbearing. So we're not gonna. The intention is not to really light it up, that people can see it from miles away. It's really just enough to see. If you're driving by, you kind of see, you recognize it, and you continue driving. It's not supposed to be overbearing.
Laura, I didn't see any conditions in this proposed resolution for illumination of the God signs. Were we intentionally omitting that, or was it the intention of the project leads to restrict illumination of all signs to 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. hours of operation.
So we have implemented, I think, signs to be turned off in ShopRite Plaza. I think I can double check for you guys, but I'm pretty sure that a couple of them we asked for them to turn off, the internally lit ones.
Yeah, I recall that too, Laura.
Yeah. So, but then, so inside ShopRite Plaza, we have limited the hours of some of the signs, but along Balltown Road, I didn't see as much of that. So I figured it was just a discussion item. I think we have precedents actually in either direction. And these are interesting because it isn't internally lit. So
yeah,
it's okay.
so Laura, I just want to make clear, because if I'm missing something in the drawing, can you go to a drawing that shows the lighting arrangement for the facade signs?
Well, so this is kind of showing you the gooseneck thing. So
No, I
like,
understand that to be for the monument.
Yeah, yeah, for the monument sign. But where it's showing how the lights, those exact same lights, I think, and they're up here. So instead of underneath, they're sticking out.
Okay.
And then coming down. Do you see them right here?
Okay, all right. This is the drawing. All right, I got it. That's the question I was asking.
But you know, and Angelo, maybe you can answer. It doesn't show any lighting. Oh wait, there's one. So there's one lower light on the hatchet. So the hatchet is lit by one lower light here.
Yeah, one central line because it's a smaller, it's less wider, so we get away with just putting one. But if you zoom in, it's actually two head. So one head will go left and one head will go slightly right to kind of keep it balanced. So it's one mount for two heads.
Right here.
And I do apologize for not making clearer, but that was the intention to make it.
And the specs on those goosenecks are the same as the specs on the ones for the monument sign?
Yeah, they're all going to be the same spec, the same kind of light, the same kind of look, the same kind of feel.
Yeah, so they're 24 to 36 inches away from the sign and then shine back towards it.
Well, what about the sign on the, just for completion, the sign on the...
Laura, we missed a good chunk of that, I believe.
Oh, we did?
What did you mean by that?
Clark, yeah. I have a question for, I guess, for the applicant. Was the plan to leave the facade signs lit 24/7?
That was our intention, and that was our thinking, and that's why we didn't pick a light box, so not to be overbearing.
Okay.
But tasteful enough that it would be lit enough with a shadow.
All right. Well, I guess, I'm really, again, I really count, I guess I'm looking at the project leads. I know Dave had some good comments there. Again, I'm personally pretty good with the signs, if that's where the applicant feels that they'd like to put them. But I guess we could have a discussion on if that's the case about whether they need to be lit 24/7. That's something that we could also talk about.
I mean, I think we're going to need to get a better understanding, given the residential nature of across the street. We are probably going to need to get a better understanding of just how the light's going to be thrown, right?
Yeah. But it's important if they're lit.
Unless there's a distance requirement on that where we don't have to.
Well, Genghis, what do you mean thrown? I mean, the lights are going to be facing the sign, right? The spotlight's facing the sign, not shining out away from the building. Was that correct? Did we get that, or did I misunderstand that?
That's correct.
No, I understand that lights will be facing the building, but the thing is that light will go everywhere, right?
For the spotlights. So I guess what you're saying is we're concerned that just the fact that there is light over in that area because it's residential it might be just too many spotlights facing the building.
Yeah.
We have them all up. Yeah.
Let me suggest if we're okay, David has some concerns about, the facade signs, whether they're really going to function appropriately. But if we're okay in general, as a board, and the majority of the board, with the signs, the size of the sign, the number of the signs, the locations, you know, on the what was it, the west and the east facades. You know, maybe we could just go, you know, we could go forward that way, and then have a condition in the resolution that the applicant, you know, just like we had in the JCC, where the planning department, the project leads would go out and take a look, and if it looks like the light is obtrusive to the neighborhood, and then maybe we could you know, have hours of operation of those facade lights. You know, so 11 o'clock they turn off or something like that.
So I think the hours of operation should match what we've done at ShopRite Plaza. I think there needs to be some turning off of that's commensurate to what was done at ShopRite Plaza.
Yeah. What does the applicant think of that?
I would say at least let us, Howard Stores usually closed by 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'll be okay if it's maybe like say 10 o'clock, just give us a couple of hours extra, and then we can just turn it off. At that point anyway, the traffic does die down.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you want to have some advertising a little bit, right? People see what you got there, right? So.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, but if there is concern about the residential and it's getting dark, really, I'd be okay anything after 10 o'clock, and I'll be perfectly fine.
Let me just throw this out there. I noticed on the west elevation, there's actually a detail on the lighting fixtures, and I looked up the fixture that will light the facade signs, the manufacturer logos, is dimmable. Would the applicant consider dimming them at dawn and dusk?
That can be all option. That's correct. We can dim. We could dim them, make it dim enough so that way it will not be intrusive. I forgot about that. Yes.
So it sounds like we have a couple of options there to make sure that we don't have any light pollution for the neighbors. Is everybody in general, you know, again, I know David, you had some concerns about the functionality based on visibility from the road and the existing vegetation that's there. But as a whole, are we okay with the facade signs, their locations and number and size?
Yes.
To that point, Chairman Walsh, I would recommend, at least if the colors are going to stay, then we probably need to balance them a little bit better. So maybe putting, you know, Still or Toro on the left, and you know, it just looks kind of strange. All the colored signs are on one side, and the more muted, you know, signs are on the other. But I don't know. I mean,
is that a reasonable request? We'll ask the applicant.
Yes, that's a reasonable request. We can rearrange. Rearrange them.
All right. So again, I'm not trying to force this along, but if everybody's okay with the number, size, and location of the facade signs and the lighting, we could do the same thing like we do with JCC. We can condition it so that either they get dimmed or turned off at the time, and we can leave it to when they get installed so we can actually see how they look and make that determination a field fit. So be it, I guess you'd call it. That's one way we could just handle all the facade signs.
I like that, Jim.
Is the majority of the board okay with that? Project leads?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, you know, if the applicant was okay with shutting signs off at night too, that's fine. But
yeah, but we can come through that with a condition where we go and take a look, and maybe the answer is, yeah, even on the low setting, we don't like it, and we turn them off at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. We can work through that. But the number of signs, I mean, the only thing I heard is, you know, basically turning them off and possibly relocating either the Toro or the steel sign, move one to the other side just to kind of get some symmetry with the colors, break it up a little bit. Does that sound reasonable, everybody? Comments?
yeah, so that's reasonable. But let me reiterate. If the applicant's okay turning them off at night, I think actually we should go with turning them off at night. Let's say after 10 o'clock, not dimming them or not. My main perspective is the change to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
During the night.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I thought if we condition it, we could actually see it, and then make that determination. Leave the door open, so be it, until the project.
Right, but that open door only goes one way, right? It goes in the way of allowing the light to be there. if we, I can, you know, I'm not hard and fast on that point. I just want to make the point that.
Okay. All right, well, we can
You
work
know-
through the conditions, you know, your recommendation, Mr. Khan and Mr.
Yeah.
Laflamme, okay? All right,
I mean, Chris, I don't know what you think on that one. You know, you can weigh into it.
I completely agree with Chairman Walsh's approach. We can make that determination based on the unique setting, right? And the trees that may block the visibility of those signs across the street. We just don't really know. So I like the fact that the applicant has the technology to dim and the ability to schedule it to complement the downtown or the town center lights off precedents we've set with the ShopRite Plaza. So I like how
Okay, I
Chip
mean-
worded it.
Like I said, I could concede a bit on the perspective of Kat. So
yeah, we got a couple options there. I think we can work through it. All right, so just to summarize, so move one of the steel or the Toro sign to the other side, you know, rearrange the sign so it looks more symmetrical and breaks up the colors. And then either we'll have in a final resolution for the signage, we'll grant the waivers for the number and size and location of the signs for the facade signs only. And then we'll work through, we need to work through the monument signs next. Does that sound good? You got a couple of nods there. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
I think the monument signs might be a little bit more challenging. I think, Laura, one of the things I noticed is looking at the monument signs. I know that, again, it was just a tentative resolution, so we might have to refine some of the numbers. Is I had a hard time coming up with your square footage. So I'm not sure Clark, where that was taken from, whether it was like just the signage area, whether you subtract the frame out or whatever, but I had a hard time coming up with was it 35 square feet, I think you had?
Yeah,
71?
Kevin, that's so it's not 8 feet by 6 feet because you don't actually count the little pole. Wait, I'll share my screen.
Right, I came up with 6 feet by 6 feet if you subtract the bottom 2 feet off, which makes 36 square feet. The sign area is what I came up with.
I would be right. What did I come up with?
I come up with 21, not counting the directional.
So you draw a box from here to here, and you remove the 2 feet because that's essentially the 2 feet that's allowed between the monument sign and the ground, and it doesn't really matter that there's a panel with the lights on it. That's kind of irrelevant. Yeah, so it should be 6 feet by 6 feet, Kevin. You're right.
So it'd be 6 by 6, so it'd be 36 square feet.
Yeah,
right.
36 square feet. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. So the question on the sign is, A, they're not allowed any of them because it's the property's too small. So we were looking at granting waivers for a monument sign and then for the second monument sign, and then also for the size of the signs because they exceed was it 24 square feet per side or whatever. So there's quite a bit to talk about here.
Evan, sorry, just a complicating factor which I didn't put in the was that Morgan Stanley had a monument sign on Balltown Road and had a monument sign on Knott Street. And so theoretically, I did put that I think and I wrote it, the change would require town board approval. I think if they like swapped out the exact monument sign that Morgan Stanley was allowed to put on Knott Street, then it wouldn't need town board approval. But the way that the applicant submitted the package, the monument sign is different enough that I think that we could say it's fine, but the town board would just have to also put its blessing on because it's slightly bigger than the one that Morgan Stanley had.
So let me ask the question that I typically ask. What would be the right size of that sign to not initiate a town board action and to be consistent with what Morgan Stanley had?
Less than 20 square
Yeah,
feet.
it's not the same. Yeah.
24 square feet or less. And Jengus, one of the challenges I have is I really wanted to see very clear direction that the main entrance is on Knott. And this sign square footage does a good job at making that clear. But if you took that portion of the sign out, they would be at 21 square feet.
Yeah.
Laura, did you know what size the Morgan Stanley signs were? Or
So I wanted to include all that in your packet, but I'm honestly having I was having a hard time finding the former approvals of Morgan Stanley. I was able to find the one for the east facade sign, but I'm still looking for the monument ones. I mean, clearly they were approved.
All right. Okay, because these signs are identical, right? Just at two locations. One just says entrances around the corner and the other one says enter here, pretty much, right? I mean, but they're basically both the 6x6 signage area, 8 foot tall with a 2 foot space. So they're identical, is my understanding.
So I guess there is one way we could look at this, right? There is the monument aspect of the sign that is advertising the business, and then the other one is advertising the traffic, right? And maybe it's possible that we look at the size requirements strictly for the one that's advertising the business, right? Because the other one isn't something similar for First National Bank? Doesn't First National Bank have that too? Where they have a
And Chase Bank that we just proposed has a more directional,
yeah.
but the signs were smaller. But I like how you worded that because that's how I looked at this mathematically.
Yeah, if we were to have the sign, if it was sign capable, the site, it would be 24 square feet each side of the sign, right, Laura?
Yes.
So, and obviously the sign is 36 square feet on each side. So one way to skin it is if it's important on Balltown Road to state that the entrance is around the corner, is to think about I guess a larger waiver on that sign, but maybe on the Knott Street where the entrance is, it could maybe be conforming to those sign requirements. Is one way of looking at it. Just a suggestion.
If we shrunk the whole sign down to 24 square on Balltown, would it be big enough to that's the part I'm having a difficult time visualizing. Would it be big enough to get that entrance around on Knott? Would that be clear?
Yeah, it'd be probably 6 feet or 4 by 6, right? So
4 by 6. 24.
yeah, versus the 8 by 6 that's proposed, or excuse me, 6 by 6 that's proposed. So it'd be 2 feet less.
Yep. So if it was tall or what? Yeah.
The KinderCare sign is 30 inches by 40 inches.
30 by 40?
Mm-hmm.
2 by 4.
Yeah. So it's 2.5 feet by 3 and change. The other thing is that the KinderCare sign is on the opposite side of the sidewalk. This sign is in very close proximity to the KinderCare sign, within 15 feet. So my suggestion would be is that you move it north further, not only to give yourself a little bit of distance, but it would also discourage people from turning into the KinderCare driveway area that we're trying not to promote people going through.
I'm glad you brought that up, David, because there's actually a disconnect between the site plan and a 3D rendering. So the site plan shows it on the northwest corner of the property where the Morgan Stanley sign is currently located. The 3D rendering shows it in a different place, which I'd also not be in favor of.
Correct. If you guys go to pages 65 and 66 in the package, 65 has the axonometric view, and then 66 is actually the KinderCare sign and the 2 trees they want to remove, just for everyone's reference.
Yeah, I actually agree that sign should not be by the roadway entrance, which also puts it by the KinderCare sign, right? Yeah, I was looking actually at the site plan.
Yeah, so Angela, would you be okay moving that sign a little bit south from the KinderCare, or north, sorry, from the KinderCare entrance and making it sort of more in front of, maybe like by the sidewalk to invite pedestrians to walk down the sidewalk, like on the north side of the sidewalk?
Yeah, I mean, originally what we thought about why we placed it there was we try to stay away from 18 feet away from the KinderCare sign was for that sidewalk. I think it should be okay. It should be fine. I mean, as long as we get a good sign, and I do think maybe in the end of the day, it should be okay. It should be fine. I don't have a major
Yeah, because at the end
objection
of the day,
to
that
it.
road is unusable for the business anyway, right? And so having it by the road, might actually make it confusing.
Well, and if you have it by the sidewalk, it sort of makes a complete entrance packet, right? So you'd have the nice greenhouse, and then you'd have a sidewalk coming down, and then you could have a monument sign, and the whole thing is an invitation for people to see the entrance to the Ace, well, the pedestrian entrance to the front of the Ace Hardware, and then you can see entrance on Knott Street.
Yeah, I think for me, in the end of the day, yeah, I'm okay putting it, I guess, where the existing sign is currently of Morgan Stanley. That's essentially what we're talking about, right? That where the existing sign currently is, where this one should be placed off. Correct? Is that my understanding is correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the Morgan
So,
Stanley
yeah,
sign
I'm
is
okay.
kind of centered on the building, right?
Well,
Yes.
Morgan Stanley sign, according to this page marker, it says marker number 6. I believe that is the existing Morgan Stanley sign, right? On the first page.
Yeah, I think that may be the for sale sign, but it's essentially right in the middle of the, yeah. Oh, there it is.
What page you on, Laura?
No, that sign is the sign for First National.
I think the one that's on the marker is this available, the CBRE.
Yeah, it was CRB because I went to Google and I see it. So yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. I have to run it by my brother actually, but but I'm okay.
Okay, so that's a good point, David, on the movement of that sign, but we're still looking at now the size. Like I said, I mean, for me, one rationale, which is,
let me ask this question.
Go ahead.
Could we maybe just put a suggestion in there that the location along Balltown Road could be field verified, only because I just don't want Angelo to commit to a location now and then notice that it's blocked by the KinderCare sign or just in a little too close proximity to it. He says it's 18 feet from the KinderCare sign. Is that correct? And
right now it's 18
from the
feet.
back.
But yeah, well, we wanted to stay far away. We thought 18 feet was enough, and along the side of that road, we felt when we drove it, we felt that it was not. It was far enough that you could see it, and not as close. That's what we really felt. There was a good location for it.
Okay, I would maybe encourage you to consider a second look at that, only because vehicular traffic traveling at 30 to 35 miles an hour up that road, 18 feet is not a very long distance. And even if it was spaced up another 10 feet, you might just want to take another look at it.
And because of that, if you go to where the existing mortgage sign is right now, with number 6, I'm okay moving the sign to that location. That I think will solve that problem altogether.
Okay.
There's enough green space there. You probably get a better visibility from both sides now. Before, I think that tree kind of blocked it a little bit. So I am okay moving the sign to where the marker number 6 is on that on the first drawing, on the first page.
Yeah, which is actually what the note says, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're okay with that. So now we
Yeah,
have
actually,
the sign up.
Yeah, actually, I think it was the first for resolution. I think we modified, but at the end of the day, I think going back to where it was before is probably the best option.
Okay, what we need to talk about is the size and number of monument signs. I guess my pick, let's get it started. I think we need 2. Can we agree that we need to? All right,
Yes, I think we need to.
okay, so,
And Laura has told us that 2 is a precedent too, to some extent, right?
Yes, that was the one reason I wasn't paying attention. So I had looked up Morgan Stanley signs, but the precedents may actually all go all the way back to the initial building.
Yeah, I mean, if we've got a building fronting on Balltown with an entrance on Knott, I think 2 monument signs become warranted.
so we
Yeah,
just have to come,
1974.
I think we just have to come through the size of the signs, I think is our
Yeah.
next objective. Right?
So
as proposed,
my train of thought that I've mentioned before, and I'm just trying to make it a little bit clearer, is the monument sign is actually serving 2 purposes. It's advertising the business and it's actually directing vehicular traffic. And I think maybe we have an option of looking at these 2 things separately. On the same sign, but having the size requirements. So to some extent, I don't think we have a size requirement on a directional sign, or I don't know if we do.
There is size requirements on a directional sign. They're pretty small.
yeah, small, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
We did the same.
and I know David would, again, we did a lot of work with the KinderCare sign. I think we had quite a bit of discussion back whenever that was. And then, of course, the new service industry across from CVS. David was deeply involved in negotiating that sign. So we don't want to, just ignore the hard work that was done on signs at those locations.
Yeah, no. Actually, that's actually exactly where I'm coming from. It's that whole discussion that we had with Bodyworks, right?
Yep, Bodyworks.
Correct.
So could we propose something here? I mean, what would be the right kind of dimensions for each of this? I'm hoping the perspective of traffic directional being something in addition to advertising the business gives us some degrees of freedom, right? So potentially we get the business aspect of the sign to where the business aspect needs to be, and the traffic size to wherever that needs to be, and what does that sign look like?
Yeah, but the way it's written, it's just total signage and how they break it up on the sign. I mean, it's important to us, but that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at the total square footage. So if it were a conforming lot that was allowed to have a monument sign, it would be 24 square feet on each side of the sign, right, Laura? So my question would be to the applicant: can you reduce it to 24 square feet on each side, and would that be sufficient to serve the purpose?
No, so a monument sign is allowed to be
Okay.
double-sided. Sorry, Angelo, just to clarify, Kevin, a monument sign, the variance is for 5 acres. If you were allowing a monument sign on that property, they're allowed to be up to 50 square feet and double-sided, so you don't count the signage on either side. And then the directional signs are only allowed to be 3 square feet. That's what a
Say
directional.
that. So what's the square footage in the directional?
3 square feet.
So 1 by 3.
Yeah. So mine are calculated the same way that the facade signs are calculated, but the waiver is that you have to have 5 acres and that this property is only like 1 point something or other. So typically the monument sign, and it's representing a single business, would be on a much larger parcel, advertising more businesses in one building. So when you guys looked at the monument signs, you've tried to keep the square footage down, but 24 square feet isn't. That may be what the previous sign was, but that wouldn't be what. You don't need a waiver for the square footage. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, right now the Ace hardware portion of the sign, the business advertising part of the sign, is at that 3 7x6, right?
It's 21. 21.
Which rounds out to, what is it, 21?
Yes.
Right.
And then we have 2. We have almost 2 by.
And then playing by the rules, they can be allowed by a directional sign that's another. Say the square footage again, Laura.
1 by 3.
3. It's 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be half the size of the current proposed entrance and entrance on.
On that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know we added these directional signs at Starbucks too, and it definitely helps the flow. It made a big difference having those signs there. And I don't know what the square footage of those directional signs were, but they had to be big enough to catch people's attention.
Right. So the key thing to some extent is that the size waiver may just be a waiver applied to the directional sign.
I think that's where I'm heading. Because the sign itself, the logoed sign itself is within the requirements. But
is the logo, does it need to be that big? I mean, it's a very small, compact logo, and it's very recognizable. And if you can compare it to the facade signs like the Toro sign, it's a lot bigger than the Toro sign, but this one's going to be right at the street. I think for the purpose of directing traffic, you could maybe get away with downsizing that a little.
you know, that's a great point. What was the size of Bodyworks? I'm trying to remember now. Did it turn out being 2 by 2 feet?
Hold on, I'll look it up. I can look it up for you. Hold on.
No, it was larger than that.
It was larger. It was like 36 by 36 inches, something like that, I think.
Well, it was more rectangular, but they had curved the edges and they hung it on a post to be more of a residential type sign, closer to what the law firm has and what the olive oil company used to have. It might have been 30 by 40 inches is what we ended up settling on.
Yeah, that rings a bell, David.
Right.
30 by 40.
But the other suggestion maybe for this sign, depending on where we go with the signage size, is that if there was a space between the entrance on Knott Street, the directional portion, much like where it is broken up where I would separate the ACE logo from the directional portion of the signage, they'd all be on the same post. So if there's like a 2.5 to 3 inch space like there is with the lighting bar at the bottom, then there could be the entrance on Knott Street would be on the same signpost. It would just have a space between it. It wouldn't be part of the ACE Hardware logo.
And how does that change something with the size requirements then?
Well, the only thing it would change is that it would keep the ACE Hardware sign separate from the directional sign. It would just be sharing the same mounting post.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, so that's kind of where I was originally coming from without putting the space in, but I guess we could put the spacing to make it clear.
Right.
Right.
It would visually separate it from the ACE logo.
Yeah. But we'll still need to give that directional sign a waiver.
Correct.
But the ACE Hardware sign is within code, right?
So the waiver for the ACE Hardware sign isn't based on.
I just did the counts on it, and it's just under 24 square feet. The 3'7" area by the 6 foot is just under. It's like 22.8 square feet.
So it sounds like we're okay with the waiver of having the signs. We agreed that we need 2 monument signs. We're okay with that. What we're talking about now is minimizing the size to the extent practicable, right?
Right. And it seems that the 22.8 square foot is allowed here, right?
22.8 square foot. Yeah, under 24.
Okay, so guys, you could, according to the code, if you are doing the acre waiver, you can have a 50 square foot sign on Balltown Road and a 24 square foot sign on Knott Street.
Oh.
50 square foot total or per side, Laura?
Total, because they're all allowed to be double-sided. So, oops, oh, darn it. Here it is. Yeah, freestanding monument sign shall be no greater than 8 feet in height above the finished grade, minimum area of 50 square feet at the primary driveway, and 24 square feet at the remaining secondary locations. Or, I mean, I would assume sort of the primary sign is the one on Balltown Road, and then the secondary sign would be the entrance on Knott Street.
And Laura, that's based on the town center overlay definitions, right?
The town center overlay definition does not deal with, I don't think, I can double check freestanding sign. That's the CN zone right there.
So what you're saying, Laura, is that the sign as proposed, if it were allowed on Balltown Road, would meet the requirements?
Yes, you're waiving the acreage and you're waiving the distance to the road. And although, sorry to be so technical, but if you allowed both the signs to be equal, then you are looking at a square footage waiver on the Knott Street side, but you're not looking at a square footage waiver on the Balltown Road side as proposed.
Right. But just because it's, if we say that we're going to allow the sign, doesn't mean it has to be that size, though, because again, it's
Absolutely.
not,
Our precedence is we have made them the absolute minimum because they're also representing an individual business. They're not like typical monument sign for ShopRite Plaza is like, you know, 36 square feet, but it's representing Smashburger. Well, Smashburger's gone.
Right, exactly. So it's really, boils down, I guess, to the applicant. Obviously, we have a proposal, in the board. We feel that the Balltown Road sign needs to be smaller or not. I guess that's the bottom line. Will it set precedent for all the work that we've done and David's done at the, Body Works or KinderCare? We're setting ourselves up for any future changes. That's the bottom line. Of any other reuses of any other properties along Balltown.
So just a clarify question. So we're including both the sign and the directional, right? As far as that combination, is that correct?
I'm talking about the combination on Balltown. Yes, the total square
So
footage.
if we lower the wording a little bit, change the wording. I think before they had enter on Knox Street extension. So they had it was one line, smaller, and not with the directional. Like we probably could cut down by half. Currently, what's there now.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the entrance. We can take the entrance and make the hour and the entrance actually on the same line. That will also cut that down.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think we definitely want to go in that direction. I mean,
Yeah, I think we definitely need to go in that direction on Balltown. I think we still have to have a conversation about Knott Street because again, it's a second sign. And
no, but he was saying on the Knott Street one, you would bring the arrow up. So
yes, I agree with that.
Same line.
Yes.
Okay. And then I did a calculation on the A sign itself. It comes out to be 20.23 square feet, about 20 square feet. Is that acceptable, or what is the proposed? It's 20 square feet. Come on, 20.23 square feet to be exact.
Again, it meets if it were allowed, it meets the requirements. But to Laura's point, it would be multiple businesses. It's only one, so it's really up to the board on how big you feel that sign should be on Balltown Road.
And if I may raise one other concern about the Knott Street, size of the Knott Street sign, being that it's located on the left-hand side of the access road as you're turning onto Knott Street, it might not obstruct view for a car that's approaching the intersection, but I think it would certainly obstruct the view turning left for a car in the queue. So I think any efforts we can make to just minimize the size of that sign for directional purposes located on Knott Street. I just feel that that we don't need that ACE logo to be 20 square feet.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. So we got to give the applicant some direction on Balltown Road. Is it one way of handling it is let the applicant go off and think about how we can minimize that size that meets their needs, and submit it for our review, I'm talking Balltown only at this point in time. Obviously, changing the way that the directional arrow is on the Balltown Road will buy some real estate or minimize some real estate so that we can decrease the size a bit there. What do you guys think? What do you all think?
Still thinking.
So Angelo, do you think that you could take the comments that you heard tonight and resubmit monument signs that are as small as you can go and send those to us to take a look at?
Yeah.
Maybe I
Let me go back.
Time. Yeah.
I mean, I do have a concern with that Mr. McCarthy was just saying with the size of the sign on not.
And then also maybe check sight lines. Like, is it possible for you guys to move the sign on Knott Street back? Maybe onto your property, and then that would allow it to be bigger and not mess with the sight line so much. Because the original sign for Morgan Stanley, it was very small, just directional sign. I think it was probably like 4 or 5 square feet. So this would be a really big thing. So if you bring it onto your property, then you don't even have to mess with the town board. And then I agree with Patrick. Like if you were to replace where the Morgan Stanley sign was exactly, like in the right of way where your measurements show and your drawing, and put a big sign there, I think that you wouldn't have the sight lines for cars to take a left out of that driveway. You just absolutely, it wouldn't be there. There's cars coming up the hill, and it could be really, really dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah, luckily they don't go right on red there though. So, yeah.
So I want to. So the sign, the 6-foot sign, is the exact size of my dining room table, and I'm just picturing if I tip this up on Balltown Road, that's a big sign, especially next to the KinderCare. 40 inches
6
wide.
foot is
Is
pretty
that wide?
wide.
I think Bodyworks was for Laura.
Oh, I pulled Bodyworks up. It was actually 36 by 27 inches.
36 by 27 at the overall
Really
extent. Okay, so 3-foot wide sign. This is double the width. And the KinderCare sign is, I think it's 40 inches wide.
Yeah.
So just ideas of perspective and size. Twice the size of the Bodyworks.
So yeah, try and shrink it down as much as possible, and then send it to me as quickly as you can, and then I'll send it out to the planning board. If we want to move on.
Yeah,
but we should give Joel some guidance, like we just did by stating the KinderCare dimensions, right? Bodywork dimensions. I am willing to look at directional signs separately from business advertising signs, but it doesn't change the fact that I think sizes need to get reduced on both.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me take it back and then let's see what we can do and repropose it.
Thank you. But yeah, I think you have the gist of the comments. You know, obviously we want to help. We think the right thing to do is to have a couple monument signs to make this work and to prevent issues and also help the business be successful. We would like the Knott Street sign to be, you know, a minimum as possible and in a location that doesn't impact traffic sight lines. And the Balltown Road, again, the minimum that we can go with that meets your needs and it functions properly. Okay, so just think about that and get back with some proposed signs and what Mr. Khan and Chris LaFawn, the project leads, myself, and Dave's got a pretty good feel for signs. Mr. D'Arpino, we can give you some feedback on that. It sounds, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like we're okay with facade signs. The only thing we got to decide on facade signs is, you know, relocation of the 2 colored ones, break that up, and then either have a condition that allows us to go out in the field once they're installed to determine whether they have to shut off at a certain time or whether they can be dimmed, and we can handle that either way, whatever the project leads feel. All right, I think that's where we're at.
All right.
Does that sound reasonable? Looks like Mr. Khan's having trouble with his phone there, so I don't know if he has something to add to that or not. And then we'll hopefully, you know, if we can work it offline, we could still potentially have a resolution we get closer and if we have to do some slight modification to the resolution at the next meeting, we can still have this discussion again and kind of get through it. Okay. I'm not sure if Mr. Khan has anything to add, so let's just wait 1 second for Mr. Khan to get back on, and if he has anything to add, we'll listen to it. Okay. He's having troubles tonight. All right.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Yeah, I think we'll move forward, and yeah, thank you for your patience, and we'll get there. We're almost there. All right.
Almost there. Yeah, it's almost, I think, over a year now, but we're almost there.
Almost there.
The site, but thank you for everything.
It's been a complex one, as you know. Yeah, we'll get there. Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right, Laura. And yeah, any information, Laura, you can provide the applicant to help them with those sizes. That would be great, as David and Chris and everybody was saying. All right. All right, and thank you everybody for their patience. So we'll move on to 3410 State Street site plan review of an application for a portable storage unit by Serafini Properties LLC, and I see Mr. Serafini's online, and Dave VRP knows the project lead. So I'll just guess I'll just hand it off to Dave for now before I get started that way.
Okay. This past Friday, I met with Mr. Serafini at his business, and we walked the outside. We looked at the storage unit. He gave me a breakdown of the history of him purchasing the lot and the dual businesses that are on there, and then showed me around the building itself. It's very obvious that he is maxed out his space inside the building, and we discussed what the Connex was serving, and then what his general overall plans were for the building and the business himself, and what he thought would be appropriate to put a timetable together to look at possibly expanding the building.
Okay, and thanks, David. And David put that out in an email, and basically, David, if you want to summarize the thought, I mean, I thought that was a pretty good plan personally. Basically, 2 6-month periods, milestones, I guess you call it, right? To ensure that the applicant is moving in the direction we want. We didn't, David, and I agree with David that painting the box or putting some landscaping, just isn't going to cut it. It's a pretty large container, and basically on a front yard, because the property has 2 front yards, being along Albany Street and along State Street. So that's kind of where we're at, right, Dave?
Correct. And also what we talked about was him keeping the neighbors up to speed on what his plans were. And from my understanding, he is on a first name basis with many of the neighbors over there. I believe to date, we haven't heard any opposition to the Connex, or no one's spoken about it publicly. So I think that that's a benefit, but the milestones would be tied to the first 6-month period, coming up with a plan for the expansion, and then revisiting the planning board to give an update. And then the next 6 months would be to finalize those, so that sometime this spring or early summer of next year, they would be ready to progress with a construction project and then ultimately eliminate the Connex.
Okay. I did have a discussion with the planning office a couple times today, and as a follow-up on my email about the question about our authority to be able to have a site plan. And, this is basically we already had one short discussion on this, but, how do we handle this? So it seems like if, right now it's not compliant as an accessory structure or as a pod, right? It's, so we need to take some kind of action, because, it's placed there without, without an area variance being granted at a minimum. So if Mr. Serafini, if you're looking at, an addition or, something in, to David's point, 6 months, come up with a plan, and then, get a plan in place and execute it by the second, not execute it, but at least, have it ready to go for construction to draw a building permit. Is that kind of where you're still at, about staying there and putting an addition on? Is that what you're thinking?
At this time, yes. Actually, after speaking with Mr. Darpino, I was able to get my engineer over there, and let him know that we have a potential, what I'll refer to as a short-term solution to the issue. And, he's starting work on putting something together with, what we feel would be a good addition on the building that we also hope would be acceptable to the different boards. Obviously, the biggest issue I'm going to face is the fact that there is no way to satisfy setbacks on that property because it's just sandwiched between the two roads. So we're going to come up with what we think would be most acceptable and then move forward with submitting that. And, the concept of doing those 2 6-month periods gave us some good time to work with it. And my engineer thinks that we can come up with something that I'd like to think the boards would be pleased with.
Yeah. One of the things, get some feedback there from somebody. You might have to kill you. Might be Craig, might be yours. Might have to mute Craig. One of the things, when I talked to Laura or Clark today, one of the things is that you have basically two functions there. You have a used car retail or sales and the retail, the gun and ammo store. And those requirements for zoning differ between those two uses that you're approved for over there. Is there any thought? And I think the use of the car dealership, right, Laura, it would be the more aggressive requirements. So are you planning on keeping in the used car business over there? Because it might be able to help yourself out if you were to, focus on the guns and ammo and possibly utilize some of that square footage for your addition. Do you think about that at all, Craig?
If you've driven by recently, you've noticed that I have dramatically toned back the size of my operation with the used car dealership. Do I plan on getting out of it? At this point in time, I don't intend to get out of it completely, but I have greatly reduced the footprint for that. As things progress, it frankly is one of the options that I do have. I'm one of those guys who's a little bit nostalgic. Crown Motors has been around since the 60s in Niskuna, and I don't want to be the man who killed it. So, keeping it around at some level is something that, has a little bit more meaning to me, but I also am examining if I'll refer to it as something that is a long-term necessity.
Yeah, it might dictate the amount of area variance required. The car dealership is a concern, which might make it, more challenging to get through the ZBA. That's all. So it's just something to think about, the impact of that,
Yeah. So just for clarification, like for automotive sales, your setbacks are 50 on the front and 25 on the side and 40 on the rear. But for retail, it's 15, 15, 20. So you're talking about, like, in some cases, a difference of 35 feet setbacks on those two uses. And we were just saying that, unfortunately, just the way the zoning code goes, it's always the more stringent. So you're facing those much larger setbacks because of the automotive sales.
Yeah, that property has always been a challenge just in size, shape, design. And, obviously the board has been very good over the years with working with myself so that, I could create something in this unit that will grow and flourish. And, I don't want to go down that road just yet, but it is on the table.
Yeah, and you don't have to, it's just discussion. We're not giving you any direction on that. It's just a thought, just something for discussion. That's all it is. Now, Laura, talking to Laura and I guess David, if this is the plan, we're out of compliance right now with the storage container from an area variance standpoint. So Laura or Alexa or Clark, you can help me out here. But it sounds what we're going to need to do is possibly make a recommendation to the ZBA with our plan, David's plan, and the plan that Craig, that you guys have discussed, and hope that they allow the container to stay there for the year. Basically, I know that they have given extensions for pods, and this we're not going to treat this as a pod. Sounds like we're going to treat it as an accessory structure because you're going to be running power to it and are going to need building permit, electrical inspection, that kind of thing. So it sounds to me like we're going to have a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals and have to take it there. I don't know if you're aware of that at all, Craig, or not.
There had been some discussion about that when I did speak to somebody on the telephone. I think it was Laura when we were first going through this process. Obviously, whatever steps are necessary, I'm willing to follow through with it so that we can, keep this as a workable solution in the short term.
The only risk, though, there is risk, and the risk is that the ZBA doesn't agree with us and does not grant the area variance, and then, obviously that would cause hardship on your behalf to have to remove the container, but I think the ZBA is reasonable if they see a plan in place. I think we have a pretty good probability of them agreeing as long as we have a good plan in place with milestones that are clearly laid out in order to get there, in order to help you and to do the right thing also with for the residents by following our code. Was there any complaints, Laura? I know that nobody said anything, but have the office received any complaints at all regarding?
So I'm still not 100% clear on how the building department became aware of the container. I mean, that's typically a complaint, but I haven't received any since we started this project. There may have been a complaint that started it off, but I haven't received any since.
Yeah, one nice thing about going to the ZBA is that the neighbors do get noticed. And so if there are concerns, you don't have to worry about like a letter to your neighbors because they're all going to get a notice and they're going to have the opportunity to state their opinion at the ZBA meeting, good or bad, of course. But if it's laid out with this plan in place that David and you talked about, that that could obviously help it go pretty smooth. Would be my opinion. All right. So what's the next action? Is the next action, denial, and then the plan would be laid out in the application for the zoning board of appeals. Is that how we would do that?
Yeah. So we can bring, if you guys are comfortable with the plan, which is really what we were waiting on to do our denial, we can issue a denial and try and bring, what's today? Bring back the referral to you guys at the end of July for putting it on the zoning board for August.
All right. So Craig, you'd have, what that zoning board of appeals application is pretty well laid out in there. You'd state, this 6 month, what the plan is basically, and why you need the container for up to a year, and then it'll go to the ZBA, assuming that they grant that, and then you would go off and work it, and hopefully the milestones would come in on time. We would touch base at the planning board level, as David has stated, and hopefully you got a plan for an addition or something that that works for everybody and improves the site. And I think that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, and is that something where it's potentially we could have a recommendation from the planning board that they are, I guess we'll say, in favor of moving in that direction? So that would carry a little bit of weight with the ZBA when they look at it and say, yes, we know that, the other entities are involved and comfortable with the concept.
Yes, and I won't speak for David, but I think David and you put together a pretty good plan. I thought that was a great idea, and that would all be included in our recommendation and hopefully also included in your package that you put together for the ZBA. And then we would do a recommendation, is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? Is it suitable for the area proposed? And and whether or not we recommend that the ZBA grants the variance. Obviously, just off the cuff, it's it's a pretty big box and it's along Albany Street. So it's it's not really suitable. But we're not asking for it to stay. We're asking for it to only stay for 1 year, so that you get your either addition or plans in place to rectify the problem. It's not there. We're not looking for it to be there permanently. So I think that would be an easier pill to swallow for the ZBA. Permanently would be a problem. I think this board would probably have a problem with it being there permanently also, Craig, to be honest with you. Would be my assumption.
And that obviously was the discussion we had at the initial meeting, and more than understandable at this juncture. So, yeah, I am content with what was actually suggested. I'd love to lay claim on the plan. It wasn't mine, but I think it was actually an excellent, elegant solution to what I consider to be a kind of difficult situation.
Yep, I do too. Okay. All right, David, anything to add? Again, I guess the next action would be Laura's, right, to go ahead and do the denial, and then Craig, you follow up with the paperwork. So we'll be in the loop. We'll see it. We'll get copies of it. I guess it's important to do a real good job on the ZBA paperwork. If you need any help, I'm sure David, as project lead, would give you suggestions. I want to speak for David. Is that okay, David? If he needs any help there?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to work with him on that. And the only thing I would suggest is that if your engineer has prepared anything for the ZBA application, even if it's a diagram on the one scalable drawing, it just shows a footprint and where the Connex currently is, would be helpful for them, along with some pictures of the current site.
Okay, I will forward that to him. I assume that he should be able to handle that pretty readily.
Great. Okay. So is there anything else? Anybody else have any comments on the board regarding the plan of attack here? Anybody? Anything? No? Okay. Hearing no one else, I guess we have a plan at least to go forward. And obviously, if Laura gets a recommendation to us at the end of the month, end of July, right, Laura? And I'm assuming, Craig, that you get your paperwork in, of course, for our recommendation. That wouldn't even, at the earliest at the ZBA would be the August, but maybe even the September meeting, the way things are falling, right, Laura? So I guess that's an advantage to you because that buys you another 1 to 2 months on your timeline also. So, okay.
Absolutely, that sounds good. And obviously, once I receive the information from Laura, we should be able to turn it around with, I would say, a week, 2 weeks. So we will make sure that my end is taken care of as expeditiously as I can.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Serafini? No? Okay, Craig, thanks for your time tonight, and we'll be in touch with you, of course.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. All right, thanks, everyone. And brings us to our last discussion item, right? Yeah, nope, that's not our last. I'm sorry. 2804 Aqueduct Road, site plan review of an application for a building addition and facade upgrade by author Mattia. Mr. Mattia, you still with us?
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, thank you for your patience tonight. We got a lot to talk about tonight.
Yep.
Okay, we don't have a project lead on this, but bottom line, looking at the agenda statement, this is the garage. Well, I know Mr. Derpino, I believe, was the project lead before for doing some cleanup and some storage down there. And you're looking to put a second floor to expand the building for business purposes.
Yes, and not changing the square footage, only going up.
Right. So. And Laura, I read the agenda statement, but I don't have it in front of me. What's the zoning down there?
It's office technology, light industrial.
All right. So the proposal that Mr. Mattia has set forth, is it in compliance with the zoning? I mean, it's already a business, right? And he's just looking to expand the business, right?
So he is definitely in conformance with the zoning right now. We looked at that when he came to the board not very long ago, actually to take care of his outdoor storage, because for some reason or another, outdoor storage isn't allowed in office technology, light industrial. So he received, you guys worked with him on that to get the approval through the planning board, and he did the screening along the fence, and he's done some nice screening on the other side of the property too. So yeah, not changing the footprint, and continuing the light manufacturing industrial use and adding office space is 100% allowed under the zoning. The one thing is, I think he was looking to see if it's possible for it also to be residential, and I'm still researching that. But for sure, putting a second story on it and expanding on the existing use is allowed. I'm looking into other stuff.
And this is Chris, Chairman. I wanted to add just a couple things. I was working with Art on this project. He also wants to connect the building to the public sewer. He doesn't have a working bathroom. His type of work is very niche. He has to deal with drying times of materials on projects with statues and such. So he's there in the middle of the night very, very frequently just to apply a layer of material to a statue or what have you. So having a full operational bathroom and space to show clients is a big part of this project.
Okay, and Laura's getting up, but Laura knows the latest and greatest down there, where we have sewer or where sewer is going to be available as a result of the new project down there. So Laura, will there be a place for him to tie into, or would he need a septic there?
He should be able to tie in. The engineering for the final line going into the county right of way is being finalized, or was finalized like yesterday or the day before yesterday, and the intent is to put that in the fall. So
right, now, that would be on the other side of the street though, so he would have to probably do a bore underneath the road to get to it.
Correct.
yes, they are doing separation of water and sewer line, but I'm pretty sure the water is on his side, and so the sewer line is going to be on the other side. Yeah,
I do have the water, the city water, but I'm not hooked up. It's right in the front of my driveway.
and so the sewer will be on the other side of the road.
Yes.
Maybe, like, you can even just coordinate when they're installing that sewer. When the trench is opened, just have coordinate with the contractor and have them bring it over to your property. But that's not something that they do. But yeah, there's a potential to get that in pretty easily.
Is it gravity, Laura, or is that going to be low pressure?
It's low pressure. He may be able to do some kind of a backflow prevention device or something in gravity because he's high. But yeah, he's gonna have to look at it.
Yeah, it's going to have to be engineered. Okay, so my question, Mr. Batia, we understand what you're trying to do there, and it sounds like it's compliant. Laura, sounds like you're researching whether you want to have it as a residential option there or not. So Laura will have to finish, or Clark, looking at that to see whether that's something that could be a possibility there. But Laura, from a planning board standpoint, I don't see what we would do with this. Wouldn't you come in with drawings and a building permit application then that's compliant with the zoning that's there? No, you're on mute, Laura.
Right. Yeah, it still needs site plan review. Especially, he may be actually storing a little bit on the right side of the building too, which I think you guys should review and approve. As you're standing there on the right side as you're standing there on Aqueduct Road. But he's doing a fair facade change, and I personally think that's great because that building is kind of a square and it's kind of ugly. So if he adds a second story onto it and he changes the facade, I think it automatically is just going to make that whole parcel look way better. I mean, it is surrounded by houses, so if you make that second story look more residential like, I think that's in harmony with the neighborhood. Chris, I think, talked to him about potentially mirroring some of what's going on with River's Ledge. I mean, I'm really fine with anything, but I think you guys, and it's, I think, fairly easy site plan review. Just make sure that you're happy with the facade changes and the uses, and I'll just double check on what's allowed. But it does seem like a win if you look at what the front of the building is now with what he wants to do, and his drawings are in the packet of kind of what he was thinking for the front.
Yeah, it seems like the engineering portion for trying to figure out the sewer and the structural and the design work, that's where the tough stuff is, and he's
not doing any stormwater or anything. So I mean, really, it's a pretty simple planning board review, and then a more complicated building permit.
Yeah. All right, Chris, were you the project? Did you volunteer to be project lead on this one?
I will certainly volunteer to be.
All right, great. So what's the next action? You need to do the research on the residential because we need to include that possibly in any resolution. Interpretation on what's allowed there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And there may need to be a special use permit if it may come to that, right, Laura? We have to look into things a little bit more for residential.
Yeah.
Did I mute myself? No.
No, you're on.
Okay. And this, by the way, for what it's worth, this is directly across the street from River's Ledge. So when that gets constructed, phase 2. This will be a visible dwelling, and that's part of the timing of all this, to Laura's point. And Art has been clear, whatever recommendations we have for materials on the exterior to complement that developed area, he's all in for that, which I think is a good thing for the neighborhood.
Yeah, it really does look beautiful. So I'm just pulling the code down, and I thought I had seen this before, but residential dwelling units are prohibited in office technology, light industrial. So what you see, all the single family homes all along Aqueduct Road that are in OTLI are essentially pre-existing non-conforming. And I think we talked about this a little bit when we were reviewing his project. I mean, maybe that's not the appropriate zoning. It should have stopped at the residential homes and been office technology on the high hill. I don't know because I wasn't part of that rezone. But outright, if the residential unit was really important to him, I think it would have to be a use variance, which he may have a case for if he wants to. So the quick and easy path would be you guys could call for, site plan resolution for approval of the site plan, at the next meeting, based on just the obvious benefit to having that building's facade approved, and you're not changing any of the stormwater, and you're just adding utilities, which benefits everybody. Or if it was really important for the applicant to try for that extra use, it would be a use variance, and then you'd have to go, through the denial and the ZBA process and all of that. So there's two paths forward, and I guess it just depends on how much you really want to do. The easy solution is to just keep the one use and get your site plan approval, within the next meeting or two. And then the much harder one would be just because of that zoning. Not because it's not necessarily compatible with the neighborhood. I think it clearly is, but that's the way that the lines were drawn.
That's a question for you, Mr. Mattia. So Laura basically said if it's a office light technology, residential is not allowed. All those other buildings or homes that are along that way are pre-existing non-conforming. So if you want to, live up there or you want to rent upstairs, you need to.
No rental. It's just what I do. I am not. I understand. I'm a light fabrication is called or something. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I think I am light fabrication, but my fabrication is only by hand. Is an old fashioned. I do very small project, but very quality, which keep me going. And for that building is great for me to do that there, but I get sometimes very messy with plaster, lime,
Yeah. So that makes it a lot easier. Mr.
I go
Mattia.
upstairs, take a shower, and if architect comes to discuss what we are going to do on this plan, and I have a clean table, give him a coffee or whatever,
Yep.
No, that works.
So
That works for us.
So Kevin, we'll have to, Art, you and I will talk about the two options,
Okay.
and whether or not you want to pursue that residential use.
And the only other thing we'll probably need to do, Chris, Laura, is, and Dave's back online here, is I know we got some hand sketches of what the proposal is. Is that something that the Architectural Review Board should take a look at also?
Definitely.
There you go.
So when he, whoever he ends up hiring to get some, basic elevations and a floor plan, then we can send that on to the board and they'll be more than happy to have them take a look at it.
Okay. So Chris, include that in your discussion, Mr. Mattia, and something that we, we're not there yet. We'll condition also in the site plan also.
Okay.
It would probably be good just to have a general recommendation to the Architectural Review Board of like the style. Like I like the style that he presented. And if you guys are generally okay, I think someone at some point when I was talking to them called it like a chalet. If you guys, if the planning board's like, yeah, we're generally okay with this, and then we refer it to the Architectural Review Board for the the specific design.
Yep.
You'd probably want to give them some guidance so that it wasn't like they were, not that I don't trust them, but like making it another box or something. So.
No, I agree. And Chris would be the point on that, to take the first look at it and make sure that, recommend whether that's where we're at, I guess.
Okay.
All right. Do we need any other discussion on this tonight? Do you have any questions, Mr. Mattia?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Thanks for waiting. And Mr. Laflamme will be in contact with you and help you through the process there, and help us through the process also. And so should we call for a resolution next meeting, or is that too premature?
That's gonna be my question. If we work through those questions and is everybody comfortable for us bringing a tentative resolution back? I'm okay with it.
Yeah, here, see that, yeah. And Chris, yeah, follow up with Chris, get a chance, and then we can have a tentative resolution. And if so any issues come up, your discussions, we can always pull it, but we'll put it on tentatively if everybody's okay with that. See a lot of heads nodding, so I'm just going to take that as we'll have a tentative resolution for the next meeting. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mattia. Thanks,
Yep.
Mr.
Thank
Mr.
you.
DiRapino, for your help as usual. Appreciate it, everybody. Okay. 859 Pierce Road. Hey, you're still with us? You still awake there?
Yep, we're here.
All right. Well, thanks for your patience also. I know it's these meetings have been a lot longer recently. Mr. Let's see, is Mr. DiRapino, were you the project lead on 859? I think you were, right? Yes. That's what my notes say that. Okay. All right.
Correct.
I don't know, Laura or David or myself. I mean, bottom line is that we didn't finish the process, and you're back to pick up where you left off and update. You re-signed the application, and we need to get back to sketch approval and continue on through the process before the times expire, so you can complete the subdivision. So you need sketch approval, and then if there's no changes and everybody's good, we're going to need a resolution granting the subdivision, and then you'd file the map, so on and so forth. Is that correct, Laura? And that's the sketch that we previously approved. The ZBA granted the front yard variance. I believe it's 75 foot, right? It was 100 foot required, and you got a 25 foot driveway. So that's all in place now. My $1 million question, I guess, for the applicant is, are you staying with the plan as it was before? Continue.
Yes, we're pretty much staying with the plan. We're just, having the engineer draw it up. And we're trying to use it's hard for us to know. It's 600 feet. It's like, where is the 300? We were trying to divide it so it's kind of 1 acre for each one of the properties, and then using the natural tree line that is here, because that affords maximum privacy for the lot in the back. So he's in the process of drawing that up, and we probably should have that within the next week.
Right, and you would need that anyway, right? In order to file a subdivision map anyway, you need to have a document.
Right.
To file, that's signed off by myself and the town engineer and everyone before it goes to the county clerk, of course. Now there was had an inquiry regarding the potential for possibly a bigger subdivision on this land. Again, it was just an inquiry. Doesn't make a difference who. Is that is that something that still might happen, or are you all set on this just a 2-lot subdivision?
We are pursuing a 2-lot subdivision. That's what we want. We have a neighbor who is interested. He abuts the property and buying that back lot. He may have other plans, but our plan is to do a 2-lot subdivision.
The reason I bring it up, because I talked to Laura today, one of my concerns is that things have changed since you were here before, since you never completed the process. We've had some lessons learned from some other subdivisions recently. And sometimes there's a condition in there that, depending on the board, right? It's not just me, but of not allowing any future subdivision. So that's why I asked, because if there's a thought that you may want to get 3 lots out of this, you may want to address that as part of this process and not go through the plan as proposed that we have now, because it might not be able to do it. Is what I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, well, I think for us, we're looking at just a 2-lot subdivision.
Okay, all right.
So in other words, if he buys it, he buys the lot, and that's all he's.
Correct. Yeah, and there may be a restriction that doesn't allow him to do any further subdivision potentially.
Yeah, then that has to be his decision. You know, I don't want to, we don't want to get involved in,
Okay.
that was
Yeah,
not
yeah,
our
just-
plan.
Right, and we're just trying to help. No, Laura, myself, the planning office want to make sure you know, there's no changes. If you go down the process, you don't end up where you didn't want to be. That's all. So we just want to make sure you know you're good. And it sounds like
Okay.
it's proceed as you were before, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
And our thought was, I mean, if we were to change what we're doing to, you know, maybe accommodate him, then we may lose the subdivision on our property too.
Yeah, it's going to
Right?
change. Yeah, because we're starting from scratch again. We're going to issue sketch plan approval. So you would need to submit a sketch plan that shows a 3-lot subdivision with the area variance that you've been granted. So you may have to have a private driveway or a private road, and this board would have to, you know, decide that that's something that we'd support, you know, so we'd have to work through it.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, our intention is just the 2-lot subdivision. We're not. Am I right, Hans? Right, you were together on that. Yeah, we're not personally. We are not looking for that.
Okay.
You know, we're staying with what we came with.
Yep, and again, we're just trying to make sure you know, because like I said, things have changed since you were in front of us last time, based on some other projects that come before this board. You know, we want to make sure we don't miss anything. You know, I'm not saying that's where we'll end up, but it's a potential. Right now, the stage we're at is starting over again in that sketch plan approval, right? So, and nothing has changed in the sketch plan. It's right where we left off with the 25-foot driveway and a 2-lot subdivision. The only thing that might change is sounds like the property lines, once your engineer gets involved, it divides up the 2 lots, you know, where it makes the actual break. Is that correct? Okay.
A question. I thought we had sketch plan approval and we had approval from the ZBA, and what we needed was the final drawing, you know, what the engineer's drawing. That was what my understanding was our next step, that we had already had
the issue
approval.
is that the planning board has to take action on a sketch plan within, there's a specific timeline in our code. It's 60 or 90 days. So just to make sure that everything's safe and accounted for, we're having sketch plan just be reaffirmed by the planning board. And as long as the planning board reaffirms the sketch plan, we think that the zoning board variance stands. So then you would do the minor subdivision, which is what you've started on now. So you still need 2 resolutions. This is what we were talking about. Next resolution would potentially be sketch plan. Then we could call for we do sketch plan and call for a public hearing, and then hold the public hearing. And then, you know, then it can go to final, but you have to have those steps by code.
Right. So
okay. I mean, we would have been moving on this faster, but COVID came in and we were down in Phoenix and we couldn't leave.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's no accountability for that, you know, in terms of.
I think it is like, that's why we're trying to be, I think, pretty fair with not requiring any new fees and allowing the zoning board variance to stand. So I actually think that is quite accommodation for, you know, everything that we can do.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward because if it's okay with David, we're going to call for a sketch plan resolution for the next meeting. So you're back on track again. You still need to do the engineering and need all the actual drawings that we're going to need in order to, we'll call for a public hearing possibly. And can we call for a public hearing, Laura, in the same resolution?
Yeah, we can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, really, we're moving it right back along again.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
Can the board hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I can.
Yeah, I had to log off, log back in again. Anyway, question. So we're informed that there's a potential sale that could happen for one of the lots. Is that lot further subdividable by the new owner?
No, without a variance, it would be very difficult. And what Kevin was saying is that typically the board would probably put a no further subdivision on the back lot.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure because I think that's the key learning, as you had said. I mean, I heard everything except for just the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that we take the precautions against that.
Yeah.
Well,
And because
I don't know if you know, but the new owner would be the neighbor. So now that lot abuts the neighbor's land. So if the neighbor wanted to redistribute the land somehow,
That's his issue.
that he could, that's a possibility.
Yeah, so that's something we got to think about, as far as conditions of the resolution when we get down to final approval. Because if we say there's no future subdivision, we have to clarify whether if someone were to buy the subdivided lot and then combine it with their parcel and then re-subdivide it, I guess that would be the only way that they could do that. Right, Laura?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it would depend on how you guys did the approval. If you just did a standard 2-lot subdivision approval and then somebody came in later and wanted to further subdivide the back lot, it does happen. You guys don't like it because it's kind of segmented review of a subdivision. But like typically on Pierce Road, we've been saying no further subdivision. I think we did it for Meppen, and I definitely did it for Roberto Scalia. Sorry about his last name. I have such a hard time with it. That plat that you just signed has a no further subdivision clause. So typically, because we don't like these keyhole lots, we've had the no further subdivision clause. But I guess the question would be, if you guys look at that rear parcel and you feel that it could support more lots, then you just wouldn't put a no further subdivision clause on it. If you really feel like 2 is max and you don't like the flag lots, you don't like those things going off, then that would be discussion with these applicants. And yeah, that would be my advice on that.
I think the applicant, if there's a thought that the potential purchaser may be doing something with the lot, you probably should, if that's your potential sale, you may want to look at that, at least talk about it as part of this process now, because you could end up or a person that buys it could end up not being able to do anything with it except for just a single family home on the second lot that was subdivided. So and that's why I'm just trying to bring this up. Make sure you're clear what you want to do, and at the end game, if it's just a 2-lot subdivision, they will have sketch plan approval for the next meeting and call for the public hearing for the 2 lots minor subdivision. You've already got your variance. It's pretty straightforward. If that's as far as you're worried about or concerned, and we're all set.
Yeah, the neighbor is fairly educated on the process, and the requirements. In fact, he was the neighbor we were going to go into that with a major subdivision at one point.
Yeah.
And,
yes,
which is no longer possible.
Which is no longer possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a planning board, I think we're getting a heads up here, right?
Yeah, we're just trying to get a heads up to make sure you think with the end in mind. That's all.
Right.
Yeah. But what I don't want to do is jeopardize our 2-lot subdivision because of trying to give assistance for a potential purchaser. I mean, there's nothing, it's very potential,
Yep, you're the applicant. It's whatever you want to do. You're the applicant. You got it. No problem.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think we want to do the 2-lot subdivision.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're the applicant, and any other discussion with anybody else is just informational discussion. There's no commitments by this board or by myself or anybody.
Right.
You're the applicant. Okay.
Yeah. We're interested in the 2-lot subdivision. That's what we came with, and that's what our intention was.
All right. Good. And David, so we talked about having a resolution for sketch plan approval at the next meeting, along with calling for a public hearing on the subdivision. Are you okay with that, and everybody else?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, great. So
I'm good with that process.
Thank you, Dave. So we'll have that at the next meeting, and basically we're just jump starting, getting right in where we kind of left off with the next meeting. Would put us ahead of where we're at, because all you had, I don't know if we called for a public hearing last time. All we had was sketch plan approval. We didn't even have a public hearing. So you're actually going to be ahead of the process at the next meeting where you were. Okay.
We did have some sort of a public hearing. I mean,
the notices were sent out to the abutters and the abutters of abutters.
Yeah. The abutters attended.
That was for the zoning board for the area variance.
Oh.
Okay. Not for the subdivision. That was for the zoning board of appeals notification.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a process.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, if it was conforming, you wouldn't have to go to the ZBA, right? Because you needed the driveway, and our feedback was we wanted a wider driveway, but I think you started with a 20-footer. We ended up at 25, if I recall.
We can't hear.
Well, actually, for our public hearing, we do need that engineered map. So we could tentatively call for a public hearing, but it would just depend, Hans and Judy, if your surveyor can get the map in time for the next meeting in order to be able to call the public hearing, because we really should have the actual minor subdivision application, not the sketch plan. We actually need the minor subdivision plat in order to be able to call for our public hearing.
Right, and I do expect to have that within the week.
Yeah, so that's fine then.
Yeah, and we'll get that over to you.
Great, and thank you, Laura, for reminding me of that. Appreciate it. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Do you have any questions?
No, I think we're good.
Good.
Okay.
And appreciate you sticking around with us. A lot of fun these
Oh,
meetings,
yeah.
huh?
It's
Thank
interesting.
Well, yeah, all these changes.
Yeah.
But thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Okay, that's it for discussion items tonight. Appreciate everybody's sticking it out again with us. So we'll go to reports. Laura or Ms. Kim, update regarding the July 27th and August meeting formats. Basically, where are we at with COVID and about getting back in live meetings?
Yeah, we had thought that we would potentially, I sent that email out to you guys, potentially be at an in-person meeting maybe at the end of July. But the governor extended his executive order for the virtual meetings, I think, through August. So definitely expect to have a virtual meeting at the end of July, and then I'll update you guys again for August.
Okay. So we'll wait till the end of July and know where we stand for August. Is that basically
End of
it?
July, yeah. So end of July is definitely going to be another virtual meeting.
Yeah.
I
And
think
I
it's,
understand.
yeah.
When's the town board expect to be back? They expect to be back in August themselves too, or?
Yeah, so the timeline I think for them is the same. They had actually thought that they were going to hold their next board meeting in person tomorrow, but that they're not. That one's going to be virtual, and the public hearing for Windsor Drive is going to be virtual on July 28th. So you won't see in-person town meetings until at least August.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Laura on that? One thing, I think Ms. Kim one of the emails said that she bought additional microphones, so we'd all have our own. That's great, but make sure that have the opportunity to test those out, because I don't know if there's enough jacks for all of, even though we have the microphones, make sure they actually work with the recordings and everything. So we'll have something to work on, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be wireless, and they may be installing like plastic between the spaces up at the town board diocese. I don't know. They're still kind of working on it. I think that's another reason that we're not doing it virtually. But the whole point is just to keep you guys safe. We appreciate all that you do and volunteer, and we don't want to bring you back to the building until we have things in place that make a whole lot of sense and procedures for the public to keep them safe as well. So hopefully August.
Great. Thank you, Laura. How about zoning code updates?
Yes. So I just wanted to let you guys know I couldn't squeeze it onto this meeting, but you may have seen the town board call for a public hearing outlining vaping on the playgrounds. And so that code that we were working on before with the 1,000-foot radius to schools for vaping and for marijuana products has just really been raised to the forefront again. And I was asked by them once again to really start working on the zoning code amendments. So I know we do this a lot, but I think we should, again, carve out the ones that are a little controversial and get the ones that we really need to get through. And then, I mean, the chicken one got carved out because the town board's doing that one on its own. So then you have the Airbnb one, which is just still seems difficult to me. If you guys are okay, I would probably carve that one out as well. And then just tackle the, some of the, there was a couple of just simple ad hoc kind of verbal changes, plus that 1,000-foot radius that we could just work on at the next meeting.
Yeah, great. Anything else on zoning code amendments or questions for Laura?
If you've got some simple ones, feel free to email me.
Now, I know that the town board's got quite a bit on the agenda coming up at the end of the month for public hearings of chickens and Windsor and I think other things also. Right?
Fire alarm codes. We're reducing our fees for minor subdivision sketch plan approval to $100 and for tenant change to $100, just because the tenant changes I mean, you know, there's so much less work than a regular site plan. So,
All right. That should make for a long meeting for them. Okay. All right. Nothing else, Laura, on reports, or Ms. Kim, do you have anything if you're still with us? Okay. Hearing nothing, we'll move on. How's that? All right. So commission business, Mr. Oster, we'll start with our usual line here. You got anything?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, sir. How about Mr. Diarpino?
Yes, we had an architectural review board meeting past week, and we basically started to outline the responsibilities of the board. Clark had pulled together some information from other municipalities, such as Saratoga and a couple other neighboring areas. We're still in the process of outlining what the responsibilities are. And then they took a courtesy look at Ace Hardware, and we gave them tentative ideas of some upcoming projects that will be coming down their way. So it was pretty constructive, about an hour or so, and we're going to be meeting once a month, correct, Clark?
Yes, once a month. And we're going to make sure we hold it to just an hour.
Yeah. Are those going to be put on the website or something when those meetings are? Are they public meetings, or is it a committee? Or how's that being handled?
What are your thoughts on that, Laura?
we can do.
You're muted.
Like we typically. Oh, am I still muted? No, okay.
No, you're okay, Laura.
Like the Climate Smart Community Task Force and a couple of the other committees that have just started, we don't stream. They're always public meetings, but I mean, if you guys wanted to, we can stream the Architectural Review Board.
Yeah, I'm not saying one way or another, but as once we get into the routine, I guess, you know, there might be somebody that's interested from the public, like for instance, Mr. Matia's project, if somebody might hear about that and want to listen to what the, you know, the discussion or have feedback for the Architectural Review Board. Just so sooner or later, once you get into the groove, and obviously when we have public meetings, it'd be a lot easier. You know, so it's really, you know, Dave and Clark and Laura, it's your call, however you want to handle that. But
So just like COVID has made it a lot simpler to stream all of these smaller committee meetings that nobody was ever really able to go to, because we would hold them in the Schaefer room, and the Schaefer room doesn't have that recording technology. So maybe a silver, I mean, I don't know if people think it's a silver lining or not, but is that you're able to see these committee meetings that you were never, I mean, as you could always come, they're always open to the public, but you know, some of them are during the day and other things. And it's like, for the first time, anytime you want to see one of these committees working, you can actually go online and see them working. That's something very interesting that happened from the virtual meetings. Before it was planning board, zoning board, and town board. That was it. That was the only ones you could ever like stream and see whenever you wanted.
yeah, I agree. Personally, I think it's been fantastic. And I'm hoping that somehow we'll be able to continue after we get back to normalcy, because like you said, if people are working, or you got, you know, it gives you the opportunity to log on YouTube at some later time and you know, check out things that you're interested in. It's just been fantastic. So, okay. Let's see. Anything else, Mr. Diarpino?
No, that was all.
All right. Thank you. Mr. McPartland. Anything for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to raise a question that I think is probably more appropriate to have conversation about offline, but while it's front of mind for me, having just reviewed this Pierce Road proposal, I'm the times we've looked at this, I just think to the significant portion of the comp plan that addresses the spaghetti lots that exist in this area of the town. And I just wonder, is there some roadmap for the mechanics of how we encourage development of local connector roads in this area of the town, while also respecting that we have to address each application as its own proposal. And it just seems it seems like it's a difficult concept for me to grasp, I guess, and I'll leave it at that. It's 10 o'clock at night, so I'm not looking to belabor this, but something that I personally could use a little guidance on. You know, how do we carry out that aspect of our comp plan when it requires cooperation amongst several private individual landowners.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's like, yeah, we're taking it, piecemeal. It'd be nice if, if everybody got together and said, here's what we got, and pooled their resources and tried to come up with something. But, that's a tough thing to do. But thanks, Patrick, and we'll keep that on the to-do list, something to follow up on. So thank you. How about Mr. Khan? Anything?
No.
Nope.
All set.
All right, and Mr. Scributennis, you still with us? Okay, he might have dropped off.
Yeah, he was having bandwidth problems. He emailed me that he couldn't get back on.
Okay, and then it would be Mr. Mr. Laflamme, sorry.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. And Ms. Gold, you got anything for us?
No, thanks.
Okay, and I have nothing for tonight. Imagine that. I have nothing. If there's no further business, anybody? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Khan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. DiArpino. All those favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing, seeing none opposed, and we'll adjourn the July 13th meeting at 10:08 p.m. Thank you, everybody. It was a good meeting. A lot done tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.